right now to everybody. What's that mean?
It
You're gonna
means
go
that other
live.
people can watch.
Oh, shit, Bunto! I thought you told me you didn't have a camera.
Bunto's maximum submission hold hangout. Faith without evidence is delusion. Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a happy new year. We're talking about sexuality in the high school experience. What was that like?
Don't do that, Bunto, because things may get crazy.
Well, okay. Well, let's see if we can temper it ourselves.
As I've already talked to Jennifer, things may get crazy, right?
Okay. The sexuality of my high school experience was non-existent. I was a suppressed homosexual during it, because if they even caught you doing that behavior, you were, going to suffer life and limb. Did anybody else have that same experience where you completely suppress your sexuality through high school?
Shit. Like I told you.
Okay.
Occasionally, I had sex with people, with dudes when I was in high school, but it was always all like,
secretive.
Oh, come on over to my place, right? And it's all like, hey, suck my dick, whatever. And like me jerking off in the hallway,
okay,
inside my pants. Like I don't give a fuck. Like I don't care.
You're an orgasm addict.
Would you say, Tim, that we are trained or conditioned to be secretive about our sexuality?
Yeah, like if you're gay like me, then you have to be. Like, yeah. I can't even begin to tell you, Bunto. Like, I mean, think about it. Do you watch television? Like, do you watch television at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy television.
You see commercials and you see dudes with women and so forth, like all the time. Like a man and his wife,
yes.
A boy and his girlfriend, whatever, right?
Family.
There's like no mention, like you do not see a dude and his boyfriend. Like that shit doesn't happen on TV. It doesn't happen. So it's like totally not like part of our society and how we live.
Okay, I would say. Okay, go ahead, Lucia.
Well, I was thinking of what he said, like especially in commercials, right? So when there may be the odd TV show with the odd gay couple, but when they're trying to sell you stuff and make the most ordinary,
mass consumer,
then there's no gay couples in the commercials.
Okay, we could say that there's no market in there.
No, I'm thinking more like it doesn't occur to them. I think it just doesn't occur to people to put a gay couple in there because they're trying to sell coffee, right? And we sell coffee, and the wife fucks up the coffee, and then the husband asks for more. It doesn't occur to them, and it's really interesting, actually.
It occurs to them. It occurs to them. It's just that they would rather not associate their product with the stigma of gay couples.
Wait, who's talking right now? Who is talking right now?
That was Jennifer.
Oh, okay.
Okay, well, let me quit presenting so we can have an open thing. Alrighty, can we go down to Jennifer? Would you say that you had a very open high school sexual experience, or was it secretive like Tim and ours?
Well, I didn't go around screaming from the top of my lungs that I was transsexual or that I was bisexual or pansexual or anything like that, but then again, I was Christian at the time, so I didn't even have sex until I was out of high school. So.
Okay, so would you say you denied your sexuality or suppressed it?
I suppressed it all, straight, gay, lesbian, whatever you want to call it. Right. It was all suppressed because of religion. So, yeah, in a sense.
Religion fucks everything up, Jen.
I know that. No, I didn't at the time.
Okay, Lucia, how about your own? Suppressed?
I didn't talk to boys, and it wasn't religion. It was depression and freakishness. And I ran away from home when I was 17, and then I had sex 2 days later. I never even kissed a guy.
That's interesting. So it's like a sexual explosion.
Well, no, it was just like, okay, now I have sex because I'm not in high school anymore. Like, fuck high school. But I wouldn't say
high school
because I was too depressed. Like, it wasn't about suppressing sexual urges. I didn't have any sexual urges. I was very depressed, and all the guys were ugly. They could suck
Okay.
it.
Well, hold on, Bunto.
Uh-huh.
Bunto, who is Seamus 999?
Davis was he's a total religious zealot and yeah.
Religious
Because
suppression.
he just walked into a hangout, and I'm all like, "Welcome to the hangout, Seamus, where I may jerk off. Have fun."
No, Seamus is real. He's like fundamentalist, literal Bibleist.
Oh, Jesus Christ! What the fuck is he doing
He's
joining this
he's
hangout?
not crazy,
Wow,
crazy.
he wants to reach out.
But he is like he can have a conversation, right? And he can express himself very well. But what he's expressing is a literalist, creationist Bible. So,
Okay, well, look, let me go ahead and pull it back on track here. Okay, is it better to have a unsuppressed sexuality at that young of an age, between 15 to 18? Jennifer?
I don't know. I can't answer that. Yeah. What's better?
Any thoughts, Jen?
My hair is such
As far as unsuppressed, what do you mean by that? Like where people are free to let others know they're gay or straight or whatever the case may be
Yes,
without
let's
ridicule?
say if you could have actualized your sexuality at that young of an age.
Actualized, like, then...
Say, I am a trans woman, this is the way I'm going to be, my sexuality, and,
well,
gone
being
to prom.
trans has nothing to do with sexuality, but I get what you're saying.
Yes.
Like, where I could, if I were to go to prom with, well, at the time when I was living as a male, if I wanted to go to prom with a male, that no one would blink an eye and...
Okay, yeah, you could characterize it like that.
What about
Yeah,
like?
I mean,
What the fuck?
Do you also mean like so as a straight girl and very shy? I mean, you're not.
Okay, what I'm trying to say is...
Eyes out. I could never have done that. Like, even if I was depressed.
Well, let me give the role play example. Either hetero or homo. It'd say in my case, I could have gone to prom with a guy. I could have not. When I was going into high school, feeling like it was the greatest thing in the world that I would be able to date more guys and maybe get back with my boyfriend. And that, let's say, I could actualize that. I could have actually been an open homosexual in high school, and didn't feel shamed or felt threatened. My life felt threatened more than anything. That's what I mean by if we could have gone through high school
I want to
like we live our lives today.
Well, look at the way I see it. Like, I've been asked, would you go back and have a happy childhood? No way. And I wouldn't change anything because I like the person I am today. And if that changes, if I go back and change something, I wouldn't be me today, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. So that's the way I look at it. So good or bad, I don't know, but it's not for me.
Tim, what do you think?
What do I think?
About open sexuality during 15 to 18 years old, high school experience.
Well, it depends on the society. It depends on the community you're in. Like Jen, if that's the way you felt, then I mean, like if you felt like the other gender at the time, then you may have walked into a situation where you could not express it. Like, I could not express that I was gay. It could not happen, right?
Mine the same. I was the same experience.
Yeah, it could not happen because of the situation that I grew up in, right?
Well,
And
you're assuming though. I mean, if I were, like Bunto said, threatened with my life being taken away from me, if I expressed it that I were gay or whatever, or trans, whatever the case may be, it doesn't take away the option for me to express it, but it takes away the positive outcome that I would hope for it. So there is a differentiation between it. The choice is still yours, but the outcome is what causes you to not go through with it. And I can understand that because negative outcomes are not what most people are after when we do things in our life. So.
But I think suppression of your sexuality and just not expressing it are two different things, though. Like the choice is yours, but so the choice to express it is yours. But then comes the suppression of the sexuality, which is another level, a different thing.
Right. Well, here's the thing. Like, I noticed that, for example, I was so impressed, not in the sense that I was amazed or or admired it, but I was so impressed in the sense that I was so indoctrinated by my society that I began to believe that I was just a straight man.
Yes, exactly, Tim.
I began to believe that I was just a straight man who embraced
that's where it's
heterosexuality
unhealthy.
because that's the way it's supposed to be.
That's where society and what's come down on you. You may have the choice, but it becomes unhealthy to the point of what you're talking about. To suppress, for society to have such things that you suppress your sexuality is, I think the choice is taken away from you.
Yeah, no, it is. In a very real sense, it is absolutely.
I just like to say, what Tim was saying is absolutely true. I mean, that really hit my heart, Tim, because I know, like, right after high school, I didn't go back to being gay. I spent the next 13 years trying to convince myself I was hetero.
Oh, I know that feeling. I was in a 3-year-long relationship with a woman, to try to convince myself and others around me that I was straight. Right?
God, that's really sad.
Well, I mean, shit. It's because I grew up as a fundamentalist Christian.
I hate.
Okay, so religion had that much of a role.
Yeah, no, it absolutely had a role. I mean, it absolutely had a role.
Your mortal soul was in danger.
My mortal soul was in danger because I chose to be with men. Well, because I was from birth, like, interested. I mean, ever since I can remember, ever since puberty, I was attracted to men.
People say it's not a choice, and I think that, and I do when did you choose to be hetero? Because, like, for me, it was always guys, right? It's always
right.
As far back as I can remember, there was, boys were ooky at first, but there was still a thing, right?
Okay.
You're meant to be with a boy, or
sure.
And I think that it has to be the same for homosexual.
Well, I know to me that the whole homosexual thing did not click till I was like 12 or 13 years old.
And you guys give me a second? We're right back, okay?
No.
Oh, well, Jen, you're talking about religious.
Say no.
Sorry. Say no. Made you think.
I was going to say, I have to piss, so...
Yeah, go ahead. We take a commercial break. Jen.
Yeah, I made him go, what?
Jen, are you still there?
I'm still here, yeah.
Okay, well, could you just, tell us about the religion aspect? You said it was stronger than the high school peer pressure aspect of not revealing your true sexuality at that time?
Well, no, it was, I mean, there was no peer pressure from school because, I mean, sexuality wasn't even an issue for me because whether I was straight or gay or bi or pan or whatever the case may be, my choice was not to have sex until I was married.
All right.
So
let's say like levels, a degree, sorry to interrupt, but degrees of sexuality, like, having a boyfriend, kissing, having a girlfriend, hand-holding, kissing, trying to, score with the girlfriend. Was that, an option that you pursued in high school, or was it suppressed?
Yeah, my first girlfriend, it was pretty tame as far as like what we did physically. Like, we never slept together. We held hands, and I don't even think we really kissed in the sense that, like, making out. We kissed goodbye.
Right, making out. You see, guys in my high school were like, well, how far did you get with her? See what I mean? They're always trying to, what would you say, not coerce you, but impress upon you that this is the behavior that you should pursue. If you're a boy, you should see how far you can get with a girl. Score with her, make it with her. See what I mean? So did you have that experience during your high school? They would come up to you and...
Yeah, but it doesn't, I mean, it's either way, it's none of their business whether I was gay or straight. I'm not one to sit. I'm not the type of person who's going to be like, lying and bolstering what I did with someone.
Yeah, boisterous.
I said I said bolstering, but yeah.
Well, bragging. That's what came to my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say that you could actualize your sex in high school, and you could have gone out with men, right? I mean, would that have been an issue? Would you try to score with guys? I mean, would you, like, the way you live your sexuality today, could you have lived it during your high school experience?
I could have. I don't think that there would have been the positive outcome that I have uh, this late in my life, and that's just to do with me as a person, kind of being stronger and more secure with myself rather than
Okay,
the
would you say
issues being dealt with.
you would have to hit a level of maturity that you didn't have in high school? Is that what you think?
Well, not maturity. It's more like strength of character. Like
Okay, strength of character.
it's just would I have? I think I would have been more easily apt to fold and to not be myself because of the pressures had I started earlier in high school, um, which I don't think is it shouldn't happen, but with some people it does. It's
Okay, I didn't show any affection during my high school
Me either,
experience.
at all.
Okay, did you openly show affection to, a loved one or a boyfriend, girlfriend, Jen?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we held hands and we kissed, and like I said, we didn't make out or anything, but I
Now,
mean,
did you
there's
feel
affection.
that you were being honest in that affection?
Well, with me being pansexual, it's affection is affection, no matter who you share it with.
Okay, so you did feel you were being honest.
Of course, I wouldn't have showed affection if I didn't.
Well, no, Jen. Many times you can show dishonest affection just for the sake of peer pressure.
Hmm.
Like if I could have kissed a girl in front of everybody in high school, and if I would have felt it would have like got pressure off me, I would have done it.
Yeah, I'm not saying you can't. I'm just saying I didn't feel the need to because what society said to me, um, even if society was like completely hetero and there's no, people were like kill the gays, I can
Okay, Jen. So wasn't it completely hetero in your high school?
no. There
It wasn't.
people knew that there are gays out there.
Okay, well, Lucia, let me ask you, just to go to you, was your high school experience completely hetero?
Yes.
Yeah, mine was too.
Yeah, it's funny. Like a couple of years after high school,
So
I
you're
think
saying that there were no gay people ever acting upon their gay
not in
sexuality
my school.
ever?
There was
None.
nobody gay at my
No.
high school.
But there
That
was
is
like a
how.
couple of years later, I went to see this tranny
Okay,
show, and
Jen, let me characterize. There's nobody openly gay at my high school.
There
yeah,
you go.
yeah. I mean, there because like I said, I went to see this with my friend to this bar, and there's a tranny show, and I saw a guy from high school. But I had totally lost like where I was. I was just having fun, and I was like, "Oh my God, are you gay?" Like, yeah, of course. He's like, "Yeah," and he goes, and I can see that you're absolutely not. I was like, "No, I'm not." But yeah, so he said that he also mentioned a few other people that were gay in high school. But as far as I knew, I don't even think I thought about it at all. Like, yeah, I don't remember having thoughts about if there's gay people at all. Like, and plus there was the whole culture of like, you're so gay. Like, you know, as a
Like, oh my God, burn them on a stake.
Yes, beat the crap out of them. Okay, how about this, Tim?
Hello, I'm back.
Oh, yeah, we're glad you're back. Tim, were you ever
Am I the only one
affectionate?
on video? Does nobody else have a webcam or what?
Oh
I
no,
don't know.
I twitch and move around too much. I can't. If I
Okay.
can't like wave my arms around and be really distracting, I can't finish a sentence. So I don't.
Okay. All right. Well, I do. All right. Fair enough. What were you saying,
Fine.
Bunto?
Okay, was your high school experience, did you ever have open affection in your high school experience? Were you
Hell
kiss
no.
somebody? Okay, why not?
Nope. Because it was unacceptable according to my religion, and it was more for me than anyone else. I was all like, well, I kind of like cock, you know. But at the same time, I was like, but God doesn't like it if I like cock. Kind of thing.
Alrighty. Okay, well here's an interesting thing
So I
that
could not be open.
comes to mind with religion. Did you ever negotiate with God about your sexuality? Any of our participants? Jennifer?
Oh yes, absolutely.
What was the negotiation like? If you make me or if
No, I would negotiate with God by telling him, God, I'm gay, but just don't care about it.
But just
don't
don't
worry.
care about
I'll
it.
do anything, I love you,
like
God.
it's okay.
But don't ask
Jennifer?
me that question of my sexuality. Jennifer?
No, there's no. When I was a Christian, there was no negotiations with God. What He said was, and that's what I went by.
So you were self-loathing, hateful towards your orientation?
No,
Well, how
I
did you
wasn't.
reconcile it?
I dated women. That's what God told me I should do.
Okay. Well, what about your attraction towards males? Where did that go?
Well, that's the thing though, is I'm not gay.
Fine, but I mean,
Um,
your attraction towards males, how did you explain that to God?
I didn't explain it to him because I never acted upon it. So I didn't need to explain
Okay.
anything.
So you did notice the urges. You
Oh
said,
yeah, I mean I found men attractive, yeah,
but
but
you didn't. Uh-huh.
finding someone attractive is not the same as sleeping with them or lying with a
Okay.
man as you would a woman.
So that was scriptural. You could, in scripture, it prescribes against actual physical, a male taking over the role of a woman, right? In the Bible, scripturally speaking. But you said it was okay for me to find males attractive.
Well, may I interject here?
Go ahead.
Okay, Jennifer and Bunto, I think the point of contention here is the fact that what one considers, the gender that one considers oneself to be, is different from the attraction that one has. So one can be attracted to men or women, or neither, but one consider oneself to be male or female. There's a difference there. I mean, like, for example, I consider myself to be a male, but that really has nothing to do with who I am considered attracted to. Does that make sense?
Yeah. That makes sense.
And
Yeah,
that's my point.
Yeah,
That's my
sexuality
point,
has nothing to do with gender.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point, Bunto. Like, there's an identity thing that is wrapped up with the attraction thing, and it really shouldn't be.
Okay.
Like, right.
So I could feel no guilt, still being a Christian, still having these attractions.
No. That's a totally different matter.
All right.
As far the way your religion, the way that you interact with your religion, and what your religion has to say about your sexuality is a totally different ballgame, because of the fact that, well, they have a lot to say about how to act, and they have a lot to say about who you are sexually attracted to.
Right.
And
I agree.
So that both, like, so somebody who was born a male but considers himself a female but is attracted to males may end up in a position where they are not only pretending to be a gender that they don't want to be, but also pretending to be attracted to a gender that they're not attracted to. So it affects both. It's a totally different thing because it affects both sides. Does that make sense?
That's interesting, Tim. But what I'm trying to get at is that the ways that we try to reconcile this with God. What were the ways? I guess you could say it's, scripturally it's not a factor. Isn't that what you're saying, Jen? That scripturally you didn't break any laws?
Yeah, the whole thing of, to lust after a woman is committing adultery of the mind or all that crap. Some people like to throw that the same way with, um, with homosexuality, that if you're a male and you lust after a male, then you've committed
Committing homosexuality.
adultery. Or if you could, but it doesn't say that in the Bible. It just says you committed adultery, and that would only be if you lusted after a married male or if you yourself were married. So that doesn't really apply to having homosexual feelings as
Okay.
long as you don't act upon it. So in that sense, being not being I don't consider myself bi. I consider myself pansexual, which means gender doesn't matter to me. So
True.
Right.
if gender matters to God, then my go-to gender would be females, and I have no problem with that.
All right. How did that cave in religious-wise? I mean, did you just finally?
Well, it doesn't, Bunto. That's the whole point.
It doesn't, huh?
No, there's nothing wrong with it because I lived my life. I didn't transition because of my. Now, if you want to talk about a conflict between what I actually felt and God, that would be my transition, which I did forego because of my religion.
Okay, why?
Because God told me not to do it.
God told you not to do it through Scripture or through Revelation?
Through Scripture.
Yeah, but how do you feel now, Jennifer?
I've never had revelation by God, so.
I don't think anyone ever truly has. I mean, how do you feel now about the religion thing, Jennifer?
I'm an atheist, so I don't believe it.
Okay, all right, well, all right, good. That solves a lot of problems right there.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, but here's the thing, Bunto, is that there's a conflict there with being a religious person who chooses to embrace their natural feelings when it comes to their own gender.
Okay.
A lot of people think of the Bible and homosexuality as being incompatible, but a lot of people do not realize that the Bible has actually a lot to say about being transgender or being the opposite gender, switching from the gender that you were born as to the gender that you feel as.
One sec, Tim. This is true, Jennifer? The Bible has a lot.
They do talk about eunuchs and such, that they're to be, I guess, revered in some sense. But as far as the scriptures that talk about, man shall not wear clothing that pertaineth to a woman, and vice versa, and blah blah blah, and all that stuff. It's, yeah, I mean, anyone can make it seem to sound like what they want to say as, but the same thing can be said to where eunuchs are to be revered, and even though they're not allowed in the church or some crap like that. And but like I said, there are different scriptures that can be interpreted different ways. So
yeah,
I interpreted it in a way where I was not allowed to transition.
Right. The word arsenokoitai. Arsenokoitai. Are you familiar with that? Either of you?
Please explain.
No.
Okay, that is the word used and translated as homosexuals in the New Testament. The problem with that word is that essentially what it means is feminine man or soft. Actually, it literally means soft man.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the problem is that it's actually a word that is used only once. Well, twice, but only once in the Bible. Only once in all of Greek texts is only used once, and that is in the Bible, where it's used twice. Sorry, I'm kind of drunk, but anyway, my point is that it does not differentiate. It does not differentiate between homosexual, heterosexual, or whether it's talking about considering oneself a male or considering oneself a female, regardless of one's birth gender. So one can interpret it in many different ways, and that's the problem with what Paul has to say. And I think it is, what is it, Corinthians?
Wow.
Essentially, it comes down to the fact that if you embrace Christianity wholeheartedly, you simply no amount of contrivances and interpretations will alleviate that fact that in the Bible it says something about either your gender or the gender you're attracted to. Does that make sense?
I have to digest that for a while. But here's a question that really, just a practical 5 centimeters off the ground question. Jennifer, which came first, the atheism or the transition?
It kind of went hand in hand.
The transition caved in the Christianity.
Well, no, my deconversion to atheism was not an overnight thing. I didn't just wake up one morning and be like, okay, I don't believe now. It was, like I said, when I was going through seminary school, and I actually started to read the Bible and study the words and do all this bullshit that I never done before, because I just listened to my pastors and priests and whatever else they want to call themselves at whatever church I was going to at the time, and I've been to plenty of them. When I actually started reading it, you come across the contradictions and the stuff that is kind of horrid and, makes you think that you're kind of worshiping a monster.
Okay.
So trying to reason my way out of that in that process is when my skepticism kind of kicked into overdrive, and it was a process of, picking up a piece of evidence here and a piece of evidence there and a little bit there and a little bit there, and eventually it all added together to be like, yeah, I don't really
want to stick with this. Okay, let me ask you this. Does anywhere in the Bible, does it indicate for a male not to act like a female, to act girly? Specifically, do not act like a woman, male.
That's what I'm trying to say, that it does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
1 Corinthians 6:9.
Okay, let me bounce this concept off you guys. Surrendering your sexuality.
I'm interrupting. I gotta go.
Okay, let me see. Thanks for coming, Lucy.
Victoria, I really loved it.
All right. Well, I hope you're not too traumatized by this hangout.
I'm fucking 51-year-old grandmother. Are you kidding?
But thanks for participating.
Give up. Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fucking hell. Just stay off my lawn, no.
Stay off my lawn, you fucking kids.
Right.
Bye. Bye. Have a good day.
Later, Lucy.
Okay, surrendering your sexuality happens with religion. It doesn't happen with peer pressure, right, Jennifer? It's not that intensity there.
I don't really know, because I'm the type of person that does whatever the fuck I want to do whenever I want to do it, unless it's imposing on someone else's rights,
Okay.
I don't feel that my transition has anything to do with anyone else. Despite all the guys that have come up to me and said that, I challenged their sexuality because they're attracted to me and I find out that I have a penis and therefore somehow that's my fault. But other than that, I don't feel it infringes upon anyone else to know what I have between my legs or how I live my life. So no.
Well, that's a good point. Well, let me put it to you this way: surrendering your sexuality. Do you feel like during your high school experience you were surrendering your sexuality, albeit either to religion or to peer pressure?
It was strictly to religion. My goal was to save myself until I was married.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Okay.
However long that would have taken.
Can you see? Well, I'll say it this way, but that's a stupid way of saying it. Can you see any utility in being able to surrender your sexuality that way? Like, suppose I get in a relationship with somebody who insists I, approach their sexuality or change my sexuality. Would you see a constructive me in doing that, or would you think that was wrong of me to even surrender that? Something so innate to a person.
To change your sexuality for someone else?
Okay, I just think it right now. I meet a girl at the gym, a female, and, I start getting intimate with her, and then she, likes me, and we start getting close, and then she drops a hammer and says, listen, I got to be hetero all the way. See what I mean by surrendering my sexuality?
Well, it's still your choice to sleep with her or not.
She's like, how can you say it? She's like stepping onto my prerogative. My right.
Even if you were hetero, you're not obligated to sleep with her. So being homo has, but homo has no difference on that either. You're still not obligated to sleep with her.
Okay, for some reason we share our intimacy. See what I mean? And then it's like we're at an intimate level where that person, the partner, wants me to surrender my sexuality to her wishes.
That's your choice. You either can or you can't. It's
okay. That's fine. Is it healthy or bad?
Well, that's for you to decide.
What do you think, Tim? Healthy or bad? You meet a woman, you end up getting intimate with her, and then she drops a hammer on you, telling you you got to be hetero now all the way. He wasn't hearing. He didn't have his headphones on.
Sorry about that. My hair
Want to
is
repeat it?
Fucked up. What's up?
I can repeat. Okay, Tim. How about this? Here's the situation. You meet a woman.
I meet a woman.
You get a female, and you get into an intimate relationship, and she demands that you surrender your homo, that you become a hetero all the way. Surrender your sexuality.
No, because you got to understand, sexual attraction is a big part of any intimate relationship. Like, people try to discount it, like, oh, I'll be with anyone if their personality matches, but that's not the case. The fact of the matter is, you are initially attracted to people because of, well, how aroused they make you. I mean, you're not, and you can be aroused to someone's personality, but their physical looks are going to attract you as well. So no, it would not happen, right?
Jennifer, comment?
I kind of agree with him. I can't roll over in bed in the morning and not like the person's looks that I wake up to.
Yeah.
But I don't feel that what they have between their legs has that much of a bearing on my choice of who I am with.
Well, and here's the thing, Jen, because I've slept with women before. I mean, I've slept with women who are like, I just want sex. I'm like, okay, whatever. I don't give a fuck. Like, I've slept with women before, so in a way, I would consider myself, and I have a lot of friends who are gender queer, who are neither. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And who I've been sexually attracted to. So I only say that I'm homosexual in order to help people understand that my primary attraction is to males, right? Mm-hmm. But the fact of the matter is that if you were to have somebody who is attractive to me in whatever way, I don't care what their gender is, I would probably approach them, for sex or whatever. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter as much to me. But on the Kinsey scale, I'm like a 2. No, I'm like what the fuck is it? I don't even remember.
I'm a 5 on that Kinsey scale.
Yeah, on the Kinsey scale.
I mean, short ended, to be nice to women, I would have sex with them.
Well, I mean, to be nice to. Well, here we are. Okay, predominantly homosexual, but only incidentally heterosexual. That's a 5 on the Kinsey scale. That's what I would describe myself as.
Okay, well, all right. What I'm trying to say, guys, is that how much in a dominant submissive relationship should you submit to? Should you ever let the other person control your sexuality?
No, absolutely not.
Jennifer? Any comment?
Repeat the question.
Should you, in a dominant submissive relationship, should you ever let the person control, in any relationship, should you ever let the person control your sexuality?
No, how can they? It's your sexuality.
Yeah, exactly.
You can deny your sexuality.
Yeah, but that's your choice. You just said you can deny your sexuality. They can't make you deny your sexuality.
Well, okay, exactly. Well, I mean, the person wants to control your sexuality, so they make you deny your sexuality. See what I mean?
Well, but fuck them.
They can't make you. You still have to make that choice. The choice is you can oblige them and deny your sexuality, or you can tell them to fuck off. Yeah. You have that choice.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, even if they're holding a gun to your head, you still have the choice. The negative outcome of them blowing your head off might not be, conducive to what you're wanting the outcome to be. So you might give in then, but you still have that choice of either dying or giving in. The choice is always yours.
Shitty wine.
Okay.
No, because here's the thing, Bunto. If I was with somebody who told me you need to start acting straight, I would say, fuck you. What is wrong with you? I don't know how the hell I got with you. You are not going to tell me what I am or am not attracted to.
Okay. Can you ever detect another person's insecurities that way? That, when a person approaches you with something that, daring, as, surrendering your own sexuality, that you would detect that they are insecure about something about themselves. Jennifer, is that, could that cross your mind? Another person revealing their insecurities that way?
A person's insecurities are, I mean, I've never dealt well with people that have insecurities when it comes to sex or sexuality, just because I myself am so aware of what I like and what I don't like, that it kind of is more, what's the word I'm going to look for here, more conducive to my mental well-being that I'm with someone who is similar to me.
Okay.
Okay.
People can change over time, Jen. If you got in a long-term relationship with somebody and then a couple years down the road started detecting insecurities, I mean, would you work to alleviate them, or would it be a deal breaker and you move on to another relationship that's more suitable? Would you ever take it upon yourself to heal the other person, to help the other person get over their insecurities?
It's not, I don't believe I have that ability in the sense that I don't think that insecurities are overcome by other people.
Okay.
I think that that is your thing to get over. That's your hurdle. Living life and having the experiences you do are what help you get over your insecurities.
Yeah.
Nobody else can, give you that push because they don't know what's going on in your mind. They don't know how to help you because they're not you. You are the best advocate for your own insecurities, and if you really want to get over them, you'll get to the source of it and find out what you need to do in order to overcome them.
Tim, what do you think?
I think that's fairly that's fairly accurate in the sense that a lot of times people's insecurities are born of their own problems with themselves, right?
All right.
And that they have some inner things to solve. But at the same time, I do think that a lot of people's insecurities are a result of their not having others who love them. So I think that, or not feeling like they have others that love them. So right. So I think that Jennifer is right in the sense that a lot of insecurities are things that one will need to work out for themselves. But some of them are a result of the fact that, well, you just don't have someone who really expresses affection. And so being with someone can solve a lot of those. Maybe you're just a person who is built to be with someone else, you know what I mean, in a very affectionate, loving relationship. Like me and my boyfriend, like there was a lot of issues that I had that I did not feel were really addressed until I had somebody around me who was affectionate, who expressed that affection and was loving. So, but at the same time, I had insecurities that I had to solve on my own. Before even meeting him, that had to do with my own identity. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Well, right. I just thought of a. That's a great. Thank you for volunteering that, Tim. Tim, how about this? Role playing, please. Okay. Let's say we're in a long-term relationship. Let's say we've been together for a year, and you've noticed that I have this behavior where I have to blow your dick every day.
Okay.
Okay. You can detect that I have some sort of insecurity there. And let's say that you decide upon yourself to help me get over it. Would you do that, or would you just say that it's Bunto's responsibility to get over?
Well, I would say, Bunto, that first of all, you just want to blow my dick. Like, that's just the bottom line. Like,
but for some reason, I always had to have that sort of intimacy with you, even if you didn't want it.
Right.
I would demand that sort of intimacy from you. Then you can detect the insecurity there.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if like I'm like not wanting a blowjob at the time, and you're like, I'm gonna suck your dick, and I'm like, okay.
Like even if you're asleep, let's say, when you said, don't do it, and then I wait till you're asleep, and then, see what I mean? It's sort of like I'm stepping on your prerogative.
Sure.
So you're saying that all rapists are just insecure?
Well, that's a good.
You know what? That's actually a good point, Jennifer. That's actually a really good point.
They are insecure to a point.
Maybe all racists are insecure. Maybe that's why they
Jennifer,
do what they do, right? Actually, that's a good point, Jennifer.
Jennifer, okay, would it be all my problem, or would you try to help me with my problem, insecurity?
Well, again, the need to blow a dick is kind of, you're the one that knows the reasons why blowing a dick is what gets you over this insecurity.
Well, okay, I could just, in my head, I'm demanding intimacy more than you're offering me. That's what I think of the dick blowing while you're asleep. That's where I think that's coming from. Demanding intimacy from you that you will not give me.
If you're blowing my dick while I'm sleeping, am I really giving you intimacy?
Well, let's say you told me, Jen, not to do that, and then you discover that I wait till you're asleep, and then I'm doing it. You see what I mean? I'm stepping,
and I'm still not giving you intimacy, though. That's you deriving intimacy from a physical act. It's not me giving it to you.
Yeah.
Like, intimacy doesn't come from the act of sex in and of itself. It's the meaning. It's the intent and the meaning behind it. I've been trying to tell you this.
Well, fine. I'm trying. Thank you, Jen. I'm trying to think of a situation where you can detect another person's insecurity, and you either help them or you don't. You would say you wouldn't, right, Jen?
I mean, if someone came to me and said, "Okay, if they understand the problem, they're like, okay, I have this problem. Here's what it is. Here's how I think I can help it out, and I need your assistance." Of course, I would help them out. But sitting here saying, I have a problem, and I'm going to use you to get to the bottom of it, to find out what the problem is, that I don't believe is a good relationship.
That's right. That's right. That's not intimacy. That's using someone as a tool to solve a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with what you say, Jennifer, because you can have problems, but if your problems get to the point where you have to invade other person's like
prerogative
boundaries, no, they're boundaries. They're boundaries. Everyone has boundaries, right, Bunto?
Okay.
So everyone has boundaries, where it's like, this is okay, this is not okay, because it invades my personal limits. Well, if the person regularly invades on them, then you are dealing with somebody who has no conception of...
Okay.
Yeah, and that person has problems that need to be dealt with on their own, so they don't hurt others.
Okay. So would you say that insecurities are deal breakers? That once you encounter somebody like this, you would wash your hands of them?
They can be. It depends on the nature of the insecurities. I mean, if the insecurities are a result of that person being like, for example, if the insecurities result in that person invading on the personal space or personal boundaries of another, then that person has problems that are related to themselves, not to someone else. Do you understand the difference?
Yes, I can understand that.
Yeah. So I mean,
how do you heal those people? Do you worry about that, or do you wash your hands of it?
Well, Bunto, if I can just interject something here. I like analogies. So what you're describing is like when you're a kid, you had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and you had crunchy peanut butter, and you almost choked on one of the peanuts inside of it. Okay. So now you have this thing against peanut butter.
Yeah.
And so you come along to me, and basically what you're saying is, I have an issue with crunchy peanut butter. So I want you to force feed me crunchy peanut butter until I like it again.
All right.
When there are other ways to get around that. You could come up to me like, I want to kind of start myself off with, maybe some creamy peanut butter, and maybe throw one peanut inside of it, and remind me to chew when I'm eating the peanut butter jelly sandwich, so that way I don't choke on the peanut again. And then we'll work our way up to, now if it was a process like that where you weren't, like Tim said, infringing on someone to do something that they weren't comfortable doing,
okay,
in order to help you, then yeah, someone in my position would be more likely to help in that situation.
Yeah. All right, fair enough. Have you ever, either of you, broken a relationship because of insecurities on the other person's part?
No, I haven't personally. No.
I have, yes.
Well, I don't know. I guess I have. Just like Jennifer said, I guess I have. I was with somebody for a while who was a pathological liar.
All right.
Okay, and they had obviously problems with themselves. And they used me basically as a source of security for themselves. And they lied to me in order to, attract me. Does that make sense?
All right.
And in order to keep me attracted, I was in a particularly vulnerable situation because I was homeless at the time. And they're all like, "Oh, well, I'll give you a place to stay, and I'll give you all this and that." But at the bottom line was that they were a person that basically used any means at their disposal to manipulate others.
Okay.
In order to fulfill their insecurities, because they were not necessarily physically attractive. They were not. He wasn't exactly physically attractive, so he used whatever means were at his disposal to sort of manipulate others into that situation. Okay, and that's what you're talking about, Bunto. That's really what you're talking about, Bunto. Is how okay is it to invade on someone else's personal space? Well, it really depends on the person. It really depends on their intents, and it really depends on what the person wants to accomplish. You know what I mean?
All right. Well, guys, we're talking about stepping on prerogatives. And would you say that either of you, if you detect somebody trying to step on your prerogatives in a relationship, that you would, confront them about that? Want you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to be with me here, you have to be with me there, you have to talk with me now, you have to tell me where you are. I mean, do you confront them about those transgressions upon your prerogatives?
Go ahead, Jen.
When you use the word prerogative, the prerogative is a right to a certain class. It's a certain class of people. I don't.
How about on your personal space, something like that, or your own?
There you go. That's a more correct word. Yeah.
Like Tim's boundaries. Yeah.
Would you confront the person, or would you just dump them?
If they're infringing on my boundaries, or overstepping their bounds with me,
right?
Yeah, I would confront them. I wouldn't just end it.
Okay.
If you never tell someone what they're doing wrong, then they're just going to move on and do it to the next person. So.
Okay, there's that extreme. How about the other one, where another person wants you to control them? Any experience with that?
I'm fine with that as long as it doesn't turn into a 24/7 type thing.
Codependency.
Well, I like the role play scenarios, and that's fine. There are certain situations that I may be put in charge of in a relationship that I don't mind having that responsibility to take care of for them. As long as, I'm not sitting there, like, controlling every aspect of their life.
Why can't you do that?
Because I have my own damn life to live. I don't need to live someone else's too.
Yeah.
Do you think it's like not your duty to control another person's life?
My duty? No, absolutely not. It's never my duty to control someone's life.
Well, if you have a child.
Still not my duty to control their life, no.
Well, to a point.
I can lay out ground rules, and I can have reasonable expectations for them to follow those rules, but I cannot, like, if I tell my son not to go out and play, and he decides to go out and play, that does not give me the right to lock him in a closet so he doesn't go out and to play. I mean, I cannot control what he does. There still has to be the freedom given, in the sense that going the opposite extreme of controlling someone is different than expectations and reasonable expectations being met.
The first thing that crosses my mind about that, Jen, is that the kid's playing with matches, right? And you tell the kid over and over, quit playing with matches. And then you find him one more day lighting something on fire. Do you not take it upon yourself to, finally, use the rod, discipline the child to, stop that behavior?
Yeah, like I said, punishment is fine. But controlling someone, like I said, in order to keep someone from going out into the yard and playing, I don't get to lock them up for as long as I feel like they're still going to go out and play when I don't want them to.
Tim? Oh, yeah, go ahead, Tim. We can't hear you because he took his mic off.
Yeah, no headphone, no mic, so. It just is what it is. It's all on how you discipline your child. If, like you said, playing with matches and setting the house on fire is going to be a little more drastic of a punishment than, let's say, going out in the yard and playing when they weren't supposed to. But I'm not gonna literally ground someone or lock them in their room until they're 20 just because they played with matches. I would explain to them the dangers of it and hope that I've taught them enough to understand that. And
well, everything you say makes sense. But okay, I use the child just so I can walk that to the adult. The adult that wants you to control their lives is being immature.
Control, yeah. I mean, like if my parents wanted to control, like my parents were cool with my transition, but let's just say that they wanted to control my transition.
Correct.
That would be unacceptable. That's because it's my life. It's
right. But I was thinking more like, role play. Me and you get together, and then I say, okay, Jen, you call the shots. What are we going to do tonight? Tell me what we're going to do. You can detect where I'm just completely using, wanting you to do the total alpha experience. Would you tell me to grow up?
And Bunto, if I told you I want you to eat some of my shit, stab a hole in your neck, and squeeze it out of that hole, would you oblige, or would you say, no, that's fucked up?
Of course, I would say it's fucked up, but can't you not see it, Jen, getting to the point where you could probably, if you wanted to be cruel, offer that and have the other person do that. See what I mean?
That's of just course, plain stupidity on the person who's doing it, then.
No, Jen. Sometimes you have to realize the psychological state of it. That people that lend themselves to that sort of behavior, need to have help for them to mature into adulthood.
That is the help that a psychiatrist gives, not a person or a partner.
You have to get to that point, but sometimes you yourself can help that person. Let's say that I decided to start praying every night, lighting a candle, and apparently, you would just eventually tell me, Bunto, there's no such thing to it. I mean, there's no thing to all this mysticism. See what I mean?
Okay, hello.
Hi, Tim, you're back.
Can you guys hear me? Can you guys see me? Both.
We can both.
Okay, hello there. So what was the question, Bunto? I missed it.
Oh, we're getting to people that want for you to control them. Those sort of people, are they children? Do they need to grow up?
No, because I'll tell you what. Because there's a big difference between wanting to be a submissive,
Okay.
who wants someone else to take control, but that's all within a certain context. Okay.
All right.
Like when somebody wants someone else to take control, it's within the context of sex. Okay.
All right.
And they want in the context, okay, because I'm not a submissive, okay, so you can guess what my boyfriend is, right?
Okay.
He's a submissive, so he wants me to take control, but that does not mean that in the context of everyday life,
yeah, the whole,
right, the whole, that he wants me to take control. I mean, in many ways he has control. And so I defer to his judgment in many situations. But in the bed, it's totally different. When it comes to sex, it's totally different. He wants me to take control.
Okay, that's
tell him what's going to happen. Okay.
So, Jen, true? Is that the way, the cookie crumbles for relationships, that we compartmentalize who's in control and who is not? Sex?
For Tim, yeah.
How about yourself?
It's not a general statement, though. I mean, my husband and we're both verses. So there are some times when he's the bottom, I'm the top, and there are some times when he's the bottom and I'm the top. Or did I just say the same thing twice? Whatever.
You did say the same twice, but we know what you mean, Jen.
Exactly. So, like, it's not a general. There's a dom, there's a sub, or there's a top, there's a bottom. It's different relationships work in different ways. There is no set way in which a relationship works out. There's people that work together in a relationship. They come to this agreement that most, like Tim said, he's the top, and well, you're not really the dom, but you're the aggressor, and the others and your boyfriend is a submissive. And that works for them.
How about this, Jen? That is it a very orderly relationship that you and your husband have, or is it very free-flowing as far as who's going to be dominant and who's going to be submissive?
Yeah, it's pretty free-flowing. Like, I enjoy most aspects of sex. There are very few things in sex, by Tim. There are very few things in sex that I don't enjoy. So, in that sense, I'm pretty much up for anything.
If that person wanted a more solid role for him or you, could you abide by that, or would you rebel?
I could abide by it, but the thing is that if it were important enough to me, where I needed to have that versatility, then it would behoove of me to find someone who is also verse, rather than dating someone who only wants it one way. That would only be, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
we can.
Okay, thank God. All right, I just wanted to take off that. I heard what you were saying, Jen. I just had to take off that mic and shit because it was fucking up my hair, and my hair is beautiful, and I wanted to stay that way.
Yeah.
No. That's a very good point, Jen, because sometimes you want to be able to switch roles. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you want to be able to switch roles, and my boyfriend and I, we can switch roles. Like, he can guff me up and whatever, and that's something that I'm totally comfortable with happening. And in the bedroom, but there's a difference between what happens in the bedroom and what happens in real life. Am I right?
Yes.
Of course.
Yeah. And so, what happens in the bedroom is totally, like, that's the preference of the person in the bedroom. How real life works is that more often than not, both people tend to take the controlling stance. Both people tend to take the, hey, this is what's going to happen stance, and they kind of compete for that role. You know what I mean? And it does not translate to what happens in the bedroom. I mean, I don't know for every relationship. I'm just talking about me and my boyfriend.
Yeah, I mean, if like my husband and we are down to one car right now, and if he decides he wants to drive, I'm okay with letting him, even though I bought the car and it's actually my car. I will let him drive it. I'm okay with that. And other times he's okay with letting me drive it, and that's not a problem with us. So in the same sense, there are certain aspects in life where he is the more I will say top or dominant part of certain aspects in our life. There are certain times when I'm the more dominant, and there are certain times when we still share in our personal lives outside of the bedroom. It's, I mean, that's kind of the way relationships are because someone has to take control. Someone has to, someone has to. You got two people trying to take control. It just becomes a clusterfuck. So one has to kind of back down, the other has to go with it. Right. But it doesn't necessarily have to be the same person all the time. So as long as it gets done, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
This flexibility that we're talking about here, it is the optimum way of handling an adult relationship, or is it just one way of handling an adult relationship?
There is no optimal way. It's whatever works for the couple.
Yeah.
Or threesome or foursome or however many people you have in your relationship.
Yeah, it's going to very much depend upon the relationship itself and how that relationship works out. I mean, there are relationships where that's not the case, and there are relationships where there is a clear definition between the bedroom and reality. How you react and how you interact out in public. And then there are relationships where it's kind of like, well, I'm the dom, so I'm going to act like the dom all the time. Am I right? I mean,
yes.
So it really depends. Like my boyfriend and I, it's kind of like we're out in public. It's kind of like, we're both kind of in charge. There's no one person who really holds the reins. In the bedroom, it's very much, I hold the reins, right? That's what we both want, and that's kind of, kind of personal, but whatever. You know what I mean?
No, sure. I'm glad you guys are sharing. But what came to my mind was that if we're ever giving advice to somebody else, or perhaps our own child, what will we tell them? Noodle around in so many relationships until you find what works, or this is what works.
What to tell a child? Is that what you said?
Sure, a young adult, somebody that you have some personal stake in. Are you going to let them repeat all the mistakes that we did, or are you going to give them the straight scoop of how to handle relationships?
Repeat all the mistakes, because you can't give them a straight scoop. It doesn't fucking matter. Like, you can tell them everything about your situation that may be completely different for them. I mean, it's their life, and the problem is they may be with somebody who wants it a different way. You know what I mean? And yeah, you give them some general advice in the sense that, hey, here's what you should expect. Whatever it is that you don't expect, that's what you should expect.
What I would tell them is, know who you are, know what it is you want, and then find someone who can give that to you.
Yeah.
I don't know who I am, Mom. I don't know who she is, Mom.
Well,
what am I looking for, Mom?
That's your first step.
Yeah.
Know what it is you have to offer. Know your boundaries as far as what you're willing to give. Know what it is you expect to receive, and then find someone who wants what it is that you have to give and is willing to give what it is you want to receive.
Right.
That's how you work it out. And it's different for everyone.
Bunto, it's a finding part. That's the important part, because
It's the finding part. It all depends on how you find that person. Because if you went out looking for it, you can find it. There's a possibility, but more than likely, it's going to happen naturally, organically. You're the way that you are, and you're going to find somebody who matches with you in every way, in a very organic and unexpected way. Like, okay, let me give an example. I met my boyfriend. Hold on, Bunto. I met my boyfriend because I was drunk off my ass and I had no place to stay. And I ended up at my friend's house. And my friend's like, well, you can't stay here for various reasons. And let me talk to one of my friends. So they called up their friends on Google Hangout. They called up their friend Eric. They're like, hey, can this guy stay here? And I ended up staying the night and generally being a drunk ass to this guy.
All right.
Generally being a drunk ass. I mean, like, our first introduction was not good. Like, it was like I was a complete ass who was, like, totally taking the reins. But that's what impressed Eric. Like, to Eric, that was the person he was looking for. And what ended up happening is that we realized, well, we share so many interests. We share so much in terms of what we want in intimacy, and what we want in the bedroom. Like, it just happened. It just happened naturally. You cannot tell people to find things. I mean, they go out and look for it. They ain't gonna fucking find it because it ain't gonna happen. It's gonna happen naturally. Okay?
Yeah, Jen.
Yes and no. It's I would say that if you have a good idea of what it is if you have a good idea of, like I said, who you are and what you're looking for, you have a good chance of finding it as long as you recognize it when you find it. Because the tendency for most people when they find out who they are and what they want is that they will start to nitpick on the people that have some of the things that they want, and they'll start to get to the point where, like, let's say I'm looking for, and these are going to be totally superficial things just to make it easy, but let's say I'm looking for a guy with long brown hair and hazel eyes and
why are you describing me, Jennifer?
Well, I'm just whatever. You're sitting on my screen.
It's not on your mind here, right? Okay.
But anyway, so well, I want this in a man. Okay, so
right.
I find Tim, and he has long brown hair and hazel eyes, and all that's good. But then I start thinking, well, I also want someone who's kind of got more facial hair or bushier eyebrows.
Okay, physical traits.
Yeah. Well, no, I said I'm going to be superficial just for the sake of being obvious. But like I said, you find what it is you're looking for, and then you start wanting more from it. And
a checklist.
Yeah, exactly. And if that person doesn't meet those smaller standards, then you kind of put them off to the side rather than letting it develop to what it could possibly be.
Right.
So in that sense, yeah, I think if you're looking for it, you may not find it. But if you keep an open mind, you may just find what you're looking for.
Okay, a very idyllic way of looking at relationships. Okay, Jen, at this point in your life, would you join some sort of hippie sex commune out in the boondocks that worships Satan? At this point in your life?
Would I join
the most bizarre off-topic statement you've ever made?
I have a point. At this point in your life, Jan, would you join some sort of hippie sex cult way out in the sticks that worships a version of Thor and Satan mixed together?
No.
Why should your child?
Well, because my child isn't me. My choice. Well, no, my choice not to do that has no bearing on what my child does, because my child may be a hippie sex who wants to worship Satan Thor combination.
Let your child live their life, right?
Yeah, if that makes
Would it bother you, Jen? Wouldn't it
no,
bother?
because regardless of what they do, as long as they're not out there, like as long as they're not out there hurting anyone else, and they're with their hippie commune friends, then
Okay.
so be it. That's
Let's
what the life
suppose
they
like
live.
a year later after they do this, they come to you, after they've washed out of the cult and tell you, Mom, that was the biggest mistake of my life. Why didn't you tell me?
Those are the mistakes that people have to make sometimes.
Why didn't you tell me?
Absolutely.
Why didn't you? That's the thing though, is if you could just say the same thing, because for sorry, I'm having to take pictures for my hubby. That you could say the same thing the opposite way, as if my son or daughter wanted to go join this hippie commune and you said no, you cannot do that, then they'd be like, Mom, why didn't you let me experience that part of my life? Why didn't you let me do that?
So it's a no-win situation, right, Mom?
No, that's why you let your child do what they want to do, because you don't know if they're going to enjoy it or not.
And the kid comes down with every permanent STD you could imagine. Would you not feel bad that you didn't ward them off?
No, because there's a difference between educating someone and controlling them. I can educate them about the situation they're about to go into, but I cannot control them or stop them from doing it. Like, are you saying that because Christians are a majority, that nobody should ever have sex unless they're married, ever? Because that's what Christians think, and obviously you're not about that. So
I'm not really saying that. What I'm trying to say is, what is the value of our experience if we do not relay it to people the younger people that we have a personal stake in?
well, because you're trying to relay control rather than experience. You're trying to say, I wouldn't like this, therefore you cannot do it.
Okay, it's our kid, Jen. It's our kiddo.
Mm-hmm.
And he tells me that, and I say, are you out of your freaking mind, cotton picking mind? No way. And then you, Mom, come to me and say, listen, Bunto, you have to, let him, you can tell him, advise him that it's foolish, but you cannot, well, I mean, tell me, how do we handle that situation as parents?
Well, how old is our child?
Let's say he's 18, of age. And he just comes to us and says, I want to join this, cult out in the sticks, and everything, about it is just bad news that we know of.
Bad news to us, because that's not the choice.
Well,
that's
because
not the
we
choices
know,
we choose.
because we know it's phony. We know that, worshiping some mystical figure who's going to take advantage of you out in the sticks, there's nothing beneficial to it. See what I mean? I mean, there's nothing. We know in our hearts there's nothing out there that's worthwhile.
And we can tell our child that. We can let them know that this is how we feel about it. But as far as like demanding that they don't go,
okay,
to an of-age child, that's totally their choice.
Okay, the kid's 17.
17, they're still in our custody.
So we can slam the door.
We could, yeah. And we would if they were still in school. Like if my child was 17 and just graduated and is like, I want to go live a life experience, then and that was the choice they wanted to make, then I would again let them know the risks and the issues with wherever it was they wanted to do, and if they came to the sound mind decision, I would have to trust my child with all the knowledge that we've given them, that they would make the right decision for themselves, not for us, but for themselves.
Okay. Very good.
Someone's cooking food. I heard a microwave beep.
Yeah, I heard that too. Let me see. Well, this is a good conversation.
Bunto.
How was your New Year, Jen? Did it go well?
Hmm. I went to bed around 9 p.m. and slept until about 8 in the morning.
Oh, you didn't see the ball drop?
Hell no.
Jennifer, what type of men attract you?
What type of men attract me?
Hello, Eric. Yes.
Oh.
Um, let's see.
Off the top of your head.
I would say, first and foremost, intelligence, kind of nerdy, geeky kind of guys.
Come here. Come here.
Do they have to be very male?
Come here. Hold on.
No, because I'm not necessarily looking for a male. The person I'm attracted to isn't necessarily male or female. But I just prefer a nerdy, geeky, intelligent person.
Okay.
And so when you ask me what kind of guy I'm attracted to,
A nerdy, geeky, intelligent sort of person.
yes, and that goes for guys and girls. So
Fine guys and girls. If a guy did not demonstrate these traits and qualities.
Hello, Bunto.
Hey, how you doing?
Hello, Jennifer.
Tim?
hello.
I'm back, and here's Eric. He just got up, so he's very tired.
Welcome. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Is the hair blue or
Morning, so
blue or purple?
it's purple and white.
I love it.
Thank you.
Purple's my favorite color.
How'd your New Year's go, Eric, Tim?
You know, we didn't really do much. We just kind of I took Tim out to this French restaurant, and then we just came back to my place and took it easy. I don't like to be out like driving around and getting crazy on New Year's. There's too many freaking drunk assholes on the road, so.
Wise.
And that's why I went to bed at 9 o'clock.
Saves lives.
One reason with me is I knew there were going to be fireworks around midnight,
Oh yeah.
and I wanted to be in a deep sleep before that happened, so I wouldn't be woken up and have issues with that. So
Anxiety.
yeah, I knew that I should just probably go to bed early and not have to deal with all that bullshit. So.
Well, guys, I'm gonna have to go now.
Tim, thanks for participating. It was wonderful.
Bunto, Jen, it was awesome meeting you.
Tim, I heard a lot about you. It was nice to finally meet you too.
Indeed. And we will talk later, okay?
Hey, see you guys. Have a good day.
Okay.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
You don't have to hang up just because.
Okay, well, I'll tail out this hangout pretty soon. Just a question. Okay, you indicated that you like intelligent men, witty, nerdy type guys. Okay, males that do not display these traits are, males that cannot display traits find attractive. You cannot seem to reconcile any sort of, you can't overcome your attraction for men if they don't have these traits. If they're not smart, they're not nerdy.
Are you asking if I could have a relationship with someone who I didn't find intelligent?
Yes. Could you go ahead and transcend your own attractiveness, what you desire in attractiveness?
No. I could fake it, but I wouldn't do that to myself.
You couldn't bank on that person becoming what you desire.
No, there's a difference between being smart and being intelligent. Like, intelligence is something you don't gain over your lifetime. You can become smarter by the amount of knowledge you know.
All right.
That's not what I'm looking for. Intelligence is more of a lifestyle, rather, where you can tell if someone displays intelligence, even if they're not educated. And that's what I look for.
Okay.
Well, no, not necessarily even streetwise, but the way they go about carrying their lives and how they consume things, how they react with life, and how they kind of absorb the knowledge that they do get.
Have you ever been repelled by somebody who you later found wonderful? Initially, you were repelled, but after a period of duration, all of a sudden you fell in love. Somehow
In a sense, yes, because physically they were not very attractive to me. But, like I said, intelligence kind of trumps that for me. So, yeah, I was repelled by their physical appearance, but their personality and intelligence kind of won me over. So, yeah.
How about if the personality absolutely rubbed you the wrong way initially, and then later you found them very worthwhile?
Well, I don't know how that would happen unless they changed their personality. I mean, people can...
How about that you understood their personality? You began to start understanding their personality.
Well, understanding their personality doesn't change their personality. Like,
correct.
I would never make the judgment unless I understood their personality. Like, if someone came up to me and said something dumb or stupid, I'm not going to judge them off that one dumb, stupid thing they say. But if they continue to spout nonsense and bullshit, then yeah, I kind of make a case for someone who's not up to speed with me as far as intelligence goes.
You would have a tolerance until they played out their string, and then you would make a decision then if they could stick with you or not.
Exactly. I think that's what everyone does to an extent.
Okay. Have you always been right in the people that you are attracted and fall in love with?
I don't know what you mean by right.
That you made the right decision in getting hooked up with them and sharing yourself with them.
In the sense that I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't, then yes, I've always been right in my choices.
Always.
Absolutely, I wouldn't be here I wouldn't be here where I am today if I didn't make those choices.
You never made a bad choice.
Not if you look at it in the sense that I wouldn't be where I am today if I didn't make those choices.
Well, I mean, the be where I am today automatically is a mitigates any sort of bad choice, correct?
Exactly. I mean, so it depends on that. What do you mean by bad choice? What do you mean by good choice?
That, we've had that experience where he says, I wish I never would have gotten involved with that person. That's what I'm getting at.
Well, yeah, you can look at the negative aspects and say, I wish I'd never gotten involved with them, but there had to have been some good in order for you to get involved with them in the first place. Like,
so you're getting lemonade out of the lemons.
Well, yeah, like my ex-wife, when I was married to her, I loved being with her. I loved spending time with her. I think we enjoyed our time together. But I'm not going to sit there and say, well, just because, things didn't work out for us, now all that shit is just bad stuff too.
Oh, really? Could you have made it work?
I don't know if we could have made it work just because of what it was that happened.
See what I mean? I mean, are you ever going to admit that you made a mistake?
No, it's not. It wasn't a mistake. It just is what it is. It's not good or bad.
Why is it bad to admit mistakes?
Why are you strawmanning? What the fuck?
No. I mean,
it's not bad.
The person that I'm talking to who says they never made a mistake.
It's not bad to admit mistakes, but I don't think of them as mistakes. They're not mistakes.
Then why couldn't you make them work?
Because things were not good between us. But the thing is,
how about this? What is a mistake in your mind, Jennifer?
The thing is that when you talk about life, there are things that can or cannot go a certain way. Like, you could come up with the next cure for, I don't know, cure for Ebola. You could do that. Now, probability says you're probably not going to be that person, but does that stop someone who thinks that from trying? No, you try it because you don't know the outcomes when you first try it. Just because things don't work out doesn't make the relationship a mistake. It doesn't make things a mistake.
Okay. Well, several things come to mind. What's the closest thing that you've had in your life to a mistake? The ex-marriage?
No, I don't look at that as a mistake.
Well, okay. Why can't you have mistakes?
Because regardless of whether you consider it a mistake or not, you still learn from it. And in that case, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You were talking good and bad. Like, mistakes can be good as long as you learn from them. And that's why what I've always tried to do in my relationships. That's how I am where I am today, and that I know what I want. I know who I am. I know what I can offer. And I know what I want, and I'm seeking someone who can offer that in return and wants what it is I have to give.
You always have to get some lemonade out of the lemon.
And important things in life, yeah. Like stubbing my toe, I don't sit there and be like, wow, this teaches me what it's like to have pain. I guess I'll dodge that desk the next time. I don't sit there and do that, but, you know, in the important things in life, it's always good to learn something from them, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's sort of like some people are a lot more, I don't say practical, pragmatic about mistakes, that they admit that they did make a mistake and learn from the mistake. See what I mean? That's the way they look at it. They don't.
Yeah, and if they want to look at it as a mistake, then sure.
Okay.
I can look at it as a mistake, but not necessarily think of it as a bad thing.
Jennifer, do you get angry if people blame you for things that are not your fault?
It depends on what it is.
You're right. It depends on what it is, but does that ever happen just in a general sense that you get angry that somebody blamed you for something that wasn't your fault?
I have, yes.
I mean, is it something, would you say, that you really detest in your life, or is it just something that you can, understand in your life, people blaming you for stuff that's entirely not your fault?
Yeah, I can understand it, but the thing is the reason why I was so upset about it is because other people were believing the lie. And so it put me in a bad light for other people too.
Jeff, how are you doing? Jeff Keller.
Hey, Bunto, how are you?
How are you? Jeff, do you know my friend Jennifer?
I think I have seen Jennifer on some of these Hangouts before, but hello again.
Hello, Jeff.
How are you?
Well, Jeff, just to bring you up to speed, we were talking about, have you ever made mistakes in your life with relationships? And Jennifer's very interesting is that she does not believe she has ever made a mistake with any of her relationships. Oh. Could you say the same?
Well, I guess.
Have you made a mistake?
A mistake in a relationship?
Or ever got into a relationship that you realized was a mistake and you wish you never got into it?
Oh. We're just talking about romantic relationships or any kind of...
Well, I guess we could go a spectrum. We could say romantic or just any sort of intimate relationship, let's say. Something where the other person had where you had a personal stake and the other person had a personal stake in
you. Sure, I've gotten into relationships with people that were, where people weren't as on the up and up as I would have thought, or whether there was a negative outcome as a result. And yeah, I have some regrets along those lines. As far as romantic relationships, I've been married for 30 years, and I almost have trouble remembering.
Yeah, what the other ones were. Well, Jeff, would it ever strike you as odd, somebody who would admit to no mistakes in a relationship, in any sort of relationship that they got into?
Yeah, I suppose, unless what the point is that you feel like you've maybe grown from having learned from a relationship
Thank you,
in
Jeff.
some way, if you were turning it around, sort of to make that point, like every experience I had, there was some positive aspect of it, something I learned or whatever. So that would be the only way that I think one could really say that they've never had a relationship that was a mistake, where they've never, uh, uh, I would have to hear you qualify the claim more, I guess, before I would.
You would give them that they could learn from it. They could make lemonade out of the lemons and still come away with something out of the relationship.
Right,
rather than just flatly calling it a mistake. It was a mistake for me ever to get involved with that person.
Yeah, I personally would be able to come up with a couple of examples where I shouldn't have been involved. Now that doesn't mean because I was involved there was some other positive outcome that may have come about indirectly. But if we take it just in the context of that relationship, yeah, sure. I think I've had some friendships that were dysfunctional and that weren't that in hindsight weren't in my long-term self-interest, or that in all likelihood would have made me, I would have been better off without them.
Okay. So, is it good for a person to admit mistakes on the whole?
Sure, absolutely, especially to oneself. That's how
Yes,
we learn.
To learn.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, though. Is like, I do admit that there were issues in the relationship. I don't look at that as a mistake, though. Like, there are things you learn. Like, if I met someone and they were totally toxic, that teaches me not only teaches me about that person, but teaches me to select friends better, or get to know them better before I allow them into my life more. There are things that you learn from these, which you want to call mistakes, which you wouldn't learn had it not been for this mistake that you call it.
Jennifer, would you ever willfully ignore a mistake?
Ignore a mistake?
Yes. Choose to look at it as anything but a mistake.
To sit there and say that it's just a mistake and there's nothing else to it, I would say there are very few times in my life that has ever happened. But no, I would not ignore it.
Well, I suppose what I would consider a mistake would be if you get in a relationship with somebody and you first of all, if you've had experience with them, they come highly recommended. They've never they've proven trustworthy with other people, and then all of a sudden they they all of a sudden do something very out of character that hurts you. I would consider that probably not much of a mistake, because you really had good reason to believe that relationship was going to work out well based on history and based on sort of evidence. But I think if you have, just to wrap up real quickly, on the other hand, if you go into a relationship and you're kind of just engaging in wishful thinking and maybe overlooking certain warning signs about where things might be headed, and you, in hindsight, look back and say, yes, I was deluded, or I was swept up in the moment. I could have been more focused, more aware of what was happening. And then I think, maybe you don't need to self-flagellate, but I think you could say, you could acknowledge that you made some errors in your judgment of what was going on.
Jennifer?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I can't disagree with him. These are all opinions on how you look at life. You're trying to pinpoint what you call a mistake as something that I don't look at as a mistake. So we have a difference in terms between us, and I think that's where our conversation is falling apart between you and I. So.
Well, let me see. Let's see if we can patch it up. Alrighty. With basic, we can get 5 centimeters off the ground here. We're on obviously a bad relationship. Would there be any case for us not to admit it as a mistake? How about that simple, Jennifer? Something that is obviously unpositive, a negative relationship. Is there any way to avoid calling that a mistake? Is there any reason to do that?
Again, you're not defining the term. You're just restating a different scenario that's very oversimplified.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm trying to get at what will it take to admit a mistake?
Well, making a mistake.
Yes. Okay, so we're in a negative relationship. Can we not admit that as a mistake?
It's not necessarily a mistake just being in a negative relationship.
Okay.
If you are, like Jeff was saying, if you had prior knowledge from other people that, people who were in relationships with you enjoyed the relationship, got good out of it, and I go into it the same way, then it's not a mistake because I have good reason to believe that you are a good person and that our relationship would be similar to what's prior knowledge.
That's interesting.
But the thing is that if it doesn't work out, then there had to have been at least some good from it. Like, at the very least, knowing that you and I don't work out together.
Well, that's plenty of vegetables there. Jeff, can you devise a mistake for us?
Well, I think what we're talking about is probably not all or nothing. It's probably rarely the case that a relationship is always from day one, minute one, either a mistake or not.
I can think of all or nothing mistake relationships easily.
Well, maybe so, but I think whenever something, wherever we end up hurt, whether emotionally, physically, financially, whatever, I think it's perfectly appropriate. Usually, if it's a relationship, it's not all the fault of one or the other, but it's certainly worth to get the most out of something bad, to make lemonade from lemons. That analyzing the situation and saying, am I partly at fault or to blame? What happened, or did I use errors? You don't necessarily have to use such judgmental language, but did I somehow contribute to this hurt that I'm now experiencing? And so that seems to me a very valid question to answer, and I find it hard from my own experience to imagine that the answer wouldn't sometimes be yes, at least to some degree, that I contributed to that negative outcome based on that relationship, that I should have seen things that I didn't want to recognize at the time, and so on, and that would be the way to help ensure that the same mistakes aren't made repeatedly. So
that's a good point. Well, before I come out with the nightmare, I don't know if there's any use to coming out with the situation. But Jen, what did you think of what Jeff just stated? I mean, there's a practicality to admitting to mistakes.
I didn't say that there wasn't. Why do you keep saying that?
I'm just offering the observation for our audience.
I don't have the same definition of what is a mistake that you do. You think that just because a relationship ends, there must be a mistake there.
Well, no. I'm thinking of the practical use of if you see somebody else in a bad relationship, helping them not willfully ignore that it is a mistake. Let's say somebody who's being beaten by their spouse, right? Could you not help the other person detect that is a negative, bad, mistake relationship?
I've never been beaten by my spouse.
Well, I'm not saying you, but I'm saying, for example.
But you were talking about me. You said, are there any relationships you were in that you consider to be a mistake?
Okay, well, I'm sorry, I wasn't thinking about that at that point, but I'm telling you, for an example, if you saw somebody else being beaten by their spouse, could you not advise that person that relationship is a mistake for them to stick in it? See what I mean?
It doesn't necessarily make the whole relationship a mistake, though, just because their spouse beats them and they stay with them. What the mistake is for them to stay with them. That is the mistake that's being made. It's not the relationship.
What do you think of that distinction, Jeff? Is that,
well, I agree, but I think it depends on the situation. If this person if it was the second marriage and this person had beat his previous life, and you got in previous wife, let's say, and then you nonetheless got into a relationship with them too and had the same experience, then I think you could say that might have been a mistake. But it depends on the situation, and I think you're absolutely right. If people do change over time, and you may, I don't know much about physical abuse. I've never been on the giving or receiving end of it. But if it were not something that were evident initially, then you couldn't call it a mistake. And I don't know if you chose to forgive somebody the first time around. Maybe that would be a choice that I don't know if that's advisable or not. But maybe somebody would make that choice. But if it continued to happen, then I think doing the introspection and admitting to what degree you might have been an enabler, perhaps, or something like that, doesn't mean you're guilty or that you should be punished. We shouldn't blame the victim ever.
All right.
But
Very good point, Jeff. Okay, Jeff brought up a very good aspect of things when there are mistakes, forgiveness. How important is forgiveness in any relationship, Jennifer?
Depends on what it is. I mean, it's.
Should you always be ready to offer forgiveness in a relationship?
No, absolutely not. It's not a necessity. It's a personal choice. It's like
I agree. I agree with that.
That you could have a relationship without any forgiveness?
If that's what you chose, yeah. I mean, if you forgot to put the lid on the peanut butter jar, and I wanted to break up with you and never forgive you for that, then that would be my choice.
Jeff?
Well, I think you were changing the question a little bit because initially it was like, should you always forgive or should you always?
Should you be ready to forgive? How's
that? You should absolutely. I don't think there's an obligation to forgive. I think if somebody were really horribly injured, or if the other party was not sincerely offering an apology that included some degree of restitution or or real concrete evidence of a commitment to never doing the same thing over again, then it might be advisable for somebody to forgive under those situations, but it would be entirely up to them. And we don't. I don't think we want victims to be.
Could you have an intimate relationship without forgiveness, Jeff?
Probably not. But that doesn't create an obligation on the part of the person.
Well, it definitely creates a necessity for forgiveness to be ready. I mean, how are you going to do a long-term intimate relationship without forgiveness? You have to have it.
So, well, yeah, it's certainly a continuum. It's a matter of degree. So yeah, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Oh, no problem. That's forgiveness. We do that every day. We say excuse me,
right,
when we go around somebody. So it's a continuum. It's not a binary situation. So yes, we couldn't interact probably with anybody without some low-level degree of politeness and apology and tolerance and forgiveness and all of that. I would probably tolerance when we're talking about routine things. But if somebody hired a hitman to have you wiped out and it didn't work out for them, I would say there was it would at least take a really extraordinary apology and degree of restitution to make up for something like that. And it's not the same as squeezing the wrong end of the tube of toothpaste or something like that.
Right, that's a very good point, Jeff. Degree. Okay, Jeff, but doesn't that prove the essentialness of honing your forgiveness skills, the practicality of working on your ability to forgive other people, especially your loved ones?
Yeah, it's about empathy. It's about absolutely tolerance and also our own need to be, I guess, forgiven or tolerated.
Forgiven.
So it's like,
Have you ever met people that had difficulties with their forgiveness, couldn't forgive others?
Yeah,
couldn't get over it.
Basically, intolerant people, people who continually nag somebody else over trivial stuff would be an example of that. Sure, and they have a lot of problems. I know people who constantly are just constantly at odds with people. Like they'll go to a store and they'll get the manager involved, and it's always like a win-lose situation in their mind. Whereas
arena combat.
Right. Yeah. Whereas healthy relationships are win-win, and yeah, you do you say excuse me, pardon me, sorry, all day long.
Think of Nadia now. Okay, arena battle, right? We have hangouts online where we go and we sit in the audience and watch the arena battle, and sometimes partake in them ourselves, right?
I'm sorry. Are you speaking metaphorically, or is?
Well, I'm thinking of specifically. I was thinking of like a Nadia hangout. We go to the Nadia hangout. Maybe there's usually arena battle in there. More often than not, correct? In a Nadia hangout.
Yeah, I don't like just using metaphors. So there's disagreement. There's, I'm not interested.
You don't like arena battle. You like heated discussion.
I like, there's lively, robust discussion.
Okay, lively, robust. Have you ever, on occasion, Jeff, seen arena battle or heated discussion in Nadia hangout?
I've seen them in hangouts with all sorts of people.
Oh, fine. Okay, well, you've seen it.
Sure.
Okay, is it important in any sort of conversation and dialogue to be able to forgive in order for the point or the whole premise of the discussion to be, what do you think, shared and experienced, acknowledged between all the audience and the participants? To like have a constructive dialogue rather than combat to the death.
That's my preference, absolutely.
That's the direction that you handle your own conversations with somebody else.
Yeah, but I recognize also that when we talk about philosophy or we talk about atheism, that we're actually talking about really, really basic stuff. And while I think ideally it should be discussed calmly, especially abstract ideas, it's understandable that people will get caught up in the moment, and that there might be some kind of escalation, and you want to diffuse it as soon as possible. But we're not talking about sports and weather most of the time. We're talking about important things, and we're also talking about abstract things. So it can be frustrating trying to express an idea or trying to think through something, and be interrupted, and all kinds of things happen that to me are understandable. I personally have a very short memory when it comes to that stuff. So.
Oh, very good point.
So like if you and I had, which I know has never happened, probably don't think it ever will, but if you and I were, going at it, I would see you in a hangout the next day, and I would be that would be over for me.
Right. We could,
Yeah, and that's happened. I've had people screaming at me, and the next day everything's fine, and
we can start again the conversation.
Yeah.
A constructive conversation. Jennifer, did you hear what we were talking about, Jeff and I, about heated arena combat in Hangouts?
No, I was outside of my room, so.
Oh, we're talking about, the ability to forgive people. And when we get into social interactions, like specifically Google Hangouts, how we can forget, let the water go under the bridge the next day and continue the conversation. Do you believe that's an asset? Or are there some people that you can never forgive that you've met at Google Plus?
I don't know if I never forgive them, but never want to speak to again because they're so inane.
Jeff?
Yeah, I basically don't come on Google Hangouts to be annoyed or to have really unpleasant experiences or to talk to people who I think are willfully ungenuine or evasive or just kind of trolls. So yes, I avoid contact with people I find unpleasant. I don't avoid contact with people I simply disagree with.
Okay.
And I don't think people who raise their voice or get yell at me or whatever they do. I don't really take it personally, so I just don't stay angry or mad about that. If it were a loved one or somebody, that would be a different matter. That would be something that I would find very upsetting, of course.
Yes, we all would.
But I think if you're going to talk about important stuff, people are going to get heated up. When you talk about if somebody was brought up, say, in a certain religion, and you're challenging that, you're not only challenging their worldview, you're really challenging the people they respect in their lives who may have promulgated those views to them or taught them those views. You're questioning their authority figures. You're really striking a nerve, and I think.
Well, that's a good point, Jeff. Jeff, let me ask you: are you being impolite, or is that them finding you impolite?
I have been impolite from time to time. I try not to be, but I've looked at relationships, short term, and I've thought I could have handled situations better. So it's a combination. I tried to be polite. I think I'm more polite than some people, but I've not been perfect in that regard. I get swept up in the moment too occasionally.
But what about them finding you impolite, even though you're simply stating your point of view?
Well, that's obviously, I would find that unjustified.
What do you think, Jennifer?
I'm thinking this potato salad tastes really good.
Yeah, you're eating. What happens is that the theist finds us impolite, Jeff, because we offer our point of view.
No, they find you impolite because you have a certain, and everyone has a certain way in how they portray their arguments. There are certain, like if I said, Bunto, you're a Christian, I don't believe what you're saying to me, provide me evidence.
Okay.
There's a difference between that and saying, Bunto, you're a Christian and you're full of shit and everything you say is untrue and God's not real.
Okay, so you say it's decorum. How you handle the decorum.
Yeah, they both are basically getting to the same point, but yet one is said in a different way that can be considered rude.
Right.
And like Jeff said, you're not just attacking the belief, you're attacking that person and that person's, whoever indoctrinated them and their pastors, preachers, fathers, whatever.
Right. Well, the of the question is this. Is it incumbent upon you to be polite? Jeff?
Well, I think from a practical matter, it's better to be polite. I think it's better to. I don't think I'm necessarily right all the time, but I have enough confidence in my reasoning process that I think I have good reasons to believe what I believe, and I don't see any point to be rude or to not let other people talk. And I would like to say that I don't at all like characterizing rudeness in terms of whether you're theist or not. I probably could. My impression is there's probably just as many rude atheists on these discussions as there are rude Christians. And some of the nicest and finest people that I've met here are theists, and we disagree on that. But I've found that for the most part, commonality between many theists. They're just some of them are among my favorite people on Google+.
Fair enough. Could I give an example, please? Okay, you're in an audio hangout. The theist starts what's going to be obviously a 15 to 20 minute long extrapolation. And when they reach their first cadence, about 10 to 15 seconds in, you just simply offer, there is no God. That person finds you rude and impolite. See what I mean? How is it incumbent upon you to be polite?
Well, you're interrupting them, first off.
Really?
Well, yeah, I mean, the whole point of going there isn't just to go in and state there is no God. The whole point of going there is to discuss the options.
Yeah, I would actually,
evidence.
My approach, Bunto, would be not to say that, but if somebody has spoken for 14 minutes, which I think is long on a hangout's really, to me, a conversation.
I think anything over 3 minutes, Jeff.
Yeah. But what I would do, what I would much rather do is not make any declarations or draw any lines in the sand. I would not want to say God does not exist. I think the polite thing to do would be to, and the more productive thing to do, would be to ask questions about the statements that the person
okay.
So what about this? What about that? I think it's more polite and more compassionate, more productive to let people be heard and to not just act like they hadn't said anything for the last 14 minutes and to come out with a declaration of your position as a one-liner. I think that would be rude, actually.
Okay, Jeff. Jeff, what you're advising our audience is that we need to go halfway into the madness, correct?
Well, you're moving the goalpost here a little bit. So you're saying it's madness. If it's madness, I wouldn't say anything. I'd say, well, isn't that special? The madness will speak for itself. And I first of all, I don't make positive statements about atheism. As far as I don't think it's necessary to me. Atheism is
just the way science works, right, Jeff? They don't make positive statements.
I'm talking about me. I'm not talking about.
Well, what's wrong with science, method, and rationality when talking to a theist?
Nothing. I just want to be on solid ground if I make a positive claim. So my claim is I have not discovered any reason or evidence to support there being a God. And if what you have told me about is your emotional reason for believing that there is a God, that's very interesting to me. I can accept that you've had various experiences that lead you to believe or want to believe that there is such a God, but can you please just, if there is some reason and evidence, that's really what I'm most interested in. So that's what I want to hear.
Very good, Jeff. Jennifer, halfway into the madness, yes or no?
If it truly is madness, then I'm probably not going to be in that hangout. Personally, like Jeff was saying, I like to keep my discussions kind of rational and calm to a point. I don't think it's necessarily going halfway into the madness. I think it's kind of meeting them at their level. Like, the one thing I noticed about a lot of theists and also a lot of atheists is that there are a lot of people that cannot put themselves in the shoes of the other person to try to argue. And I think that's where I would go, is go back to my Christianity days and understand where it is they're coming from, and then provide my argument for that. So,
Chemos, welcome.
Hey, what's up?
Have you been listening to the conversation? We're talking about how polite we should be towards somebody else's premise, or specifically theism.
Well, that all depends on your worldview and your opinion, right?
Right. Do you feel like atheists are very impolite?
As opposed to
theists? And whenever you're intercoursing with a atheist, do you feel that they are mostly impolite? Most of the atheists that you meet.
No.
I like how you threw the word intercoursing in there.
Well, I thought intercourse, I thought interacting.
I don't think atheists are any more rude or impolite than any other group of people or whatever. I mean, there's bad apples, but like same thing with all groups.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
But you know, as atheists, we don't have any morals, so.
You have no justification for the standard of which you gauge your morals. But.
So what does this go halfway into the madness? What is this terminology that you're using?
Well, what I'm trying to get at, Jeff, is sort of like I go back to the earlier of the question: is it incumbent upon us to be polite, right? Well, the other person will always think we're impolite just by challenging their assertion that unreality exists. See that? What I mean? To me, that's halfway into the madness, where we have to wait till the guy does the 14-minute exposition before, within the 10 seconds, we can say the obvious: there is no God.
Okay, so if we're saying that if somebody's definition of politeness is agreement,
okay, very good point, Jeff.
Then that obviously wouldn't be my. This is why we need to define terms. That would obviously not be my position. My version of politeness is simply manners. It's not about agreeing with somebody. It's not about holding back or necessarily sparing their feelings. Although I think if you're challenging somebody's lifetime worldview, you should be as polite and as gentle as possible. If you think the person's honest and they're really they're sincere in their views, I think it's disrespectful to slam them down or talk to them like they're a child. And I don't think that reflects well on atheists or anybody else who does those kinds of things.
What do you think, Seamus? Do you agree?
With what?
What Jeff said.
I mean, yeah, to a degree, yeah.
Oh, would you feel that I was impolite, Seamus, if I told you there was no God?
No. It is in the manner that you convey that sentiment. I mean, yeah, I think you can say you can get away with some pretty crude remarks if you're eloquent enough to convey them.
Interesting.
No, that statement in and of itself is not rude or impolite. There's nothing impolite about how you feel or observe your worldview or reality or blah, 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 causal nature of existence. What's rude or impolite about that? I don't see it.
It's your life view. It's the way that you view reality that's
ontology.
Dear to you.
Right. It's your
that's dear to you, and I just say no such things exist. Don't you think that's impolite?
Well, there's a difference between saying it doesn't exist and them not actually existing, right? So I'm comfortable with the fact that people are going to disagree on things, but that's not necessarily contingent on the truth of that subject. So, for example, God. You can say there is no God, and if I thought God's nature was contingent on your belief, I'd have serious problems with my belief. So I'm willing to reconcile that. Yeah, people are going to say things, people are going to feel things. It has no bearing on what is actually true or not true.
So,
okay,
if I could comment here. So first of all, if none of us have heard this theoretical other conversation, but let's assume that we both that this person has given some sort of definition of a God, and what I would do as an atheist is I would say, well, that definition seems contradictory to me for X, Y, and Z reason, or there's there are just aspects of that definition that I don't think are possible, or you haven't really provided any evidence that such an entity exists, if it is possible for that entity to exist. So based on that, I'm not convinced by your argument. I think when you say out of the box there is no God, you're actually making a positive statement of reality, and I think you're shifting the burden of proof onto yourself, and I think it's kind of a foolish approach.
But science, burden of proof on science. I mean, has not science tried for, I guess, in some method to prove that there's a God that exists, and still we have bupkis? No evidence for any agency interacting in our reality up to this point.
Right.
Up to this very many. So I mean, your idea
that is a reason not to believe in God. I absolutely agree with you.
That's a false premise to begin with, right? That assumes that the level of proof that you demand has not been met, right? But that doesn't mean that there's never been any interaction between God and man. It's just none that you're willing to accept.
About that, Seamus.
It's a classification error, actually. It's a category fallacy.
Is banking on stuff like could, should, and the uncertainty that something like God could exist, and saying that's proof enough. Do you understand? I mean, science, our reality is all we have. The universe is all we have. We found no evidence for this agency interacting our reality, but yet we are to believe in it because it could possibly exist. See, that's the problem I have with
I'm never
that
saying
argument.
you have to believe in it because it could possibly exist, right? So you're the final arbiter of what's, like, for example, different people are going to have different standards that need to be met, right? Different evidential standards, different standards of proof that's going to take them to a tipping point, right?
That's why we have the scientific.
So you get to arbitrarily set your own unique burden of proof that it's going to take to convince you on any particular subject. And you're the one who sets that standard, and you're the final judge and arbiter of what the criterion for the standard is and what actually does or does not meet that standard. So, yeah, it's not up to me to convince you of God or to say, therefore you must believe because it can't be proven wrong. No, really, all I can do is just present you the arguments, whether they're philosophical in nature, whether they're theological in nature, whatever, and then you're going to have to take that and apply that to that criterion or that standard that you have that you set on your own. So,
Jennifer,
am I wounded that the evidence doesn't meet your standard? Of course not. For a lot of materialists or evidential naturalists, you can't meet that burden of proof unless it's testable or repeatable, right?
Interesting. Very good point. Jennifer, is that the way science works?
Why are you asking me?
Do you have... Okay, well, what... Okay.
Well, of course, no, that's... I mean...
Was that a satisfactory rationale?
That's not the way science works, no, but that's the thing, though, is when it comes to the supernatural, science cannot test that. So we are left with these philosophical and theological arguments to base our opinions off of. And that's pretty much all they are opinions. And like he was saying, you either come to the conclusion that your burden of proof has been met and you believe, or you come to the conclusion that it has not and you don't. Now, it like Seamus was saying, it's not his job to prove to anyone that God does or does not exist. If it were anyone's duty to do so, it would be God himself. And that's kind of where I sit, is that if God really wants me to know that he exists, then God himself will show me that he does, and he has yet to do so. Okay. And until that happens, then I refuse to believe. That's just the way it goes.
Sorry, Jeff, science or opinions?
Well, I'd rather use... I think we're talking about logic here and not just science, although the scientific method is certainly compatible with logic. But I'd just like to maybe clarify this a little bit. So let's say somebody comes on here and they say, I've seen Bigfoot. He's 7 feet tall. He's this. He's that. Here's a photograph of him, et cetera, et cetera. And then I look at the photograph, and well, photographs can easily be doctored, so that's not really conclusive. That person's testimony is not that conclusive. They could have been in error. It's an extraordinary claim about a being that we really don't. We have little or no even evidence that such a thing exists. So that's fine. So say, I appreciate that you believe that. The polite thing to do, and I think the rational and responsible thing to do would say, thanks. I can't accept that evidence for the reasons I just mentioned. Blah blah blah. And I find it extremely unlikely that Bigfoot, as you describe them, actually exists. This doesn't seem to prove the existence of Bigfoot. Now, if I say categorically, Bigfoot doesn't exist, well, that's a pretty bold statement because I'm saying that he doesn't exist anywhere. I could actually be saying that nowhere in the universe is there such a thing that we could call Bigfoot. That is a positive claim about existence.
Okay.
It has to be supported, and the scientific method would have you support that too. If you said there was nowhere in the universe is there, some kind of pink liquid or whatever, then that's a positive claim, and so I think saying out of the box there is no God is kind of pointless, and I think it's maybe undermines.
We need to bend God around reality for the sake of
who's
evading science.
Who's doing that?
I mean, say somewhere there might be a God. Somewhere on planet Eros under a blue stone there might be a godlike energy.
I'm not making that claim. Did you hear me say that? I didn't say.
But see what I mean?
I'm saying that if I said there wasn't one anywhere, then I would have the burden of proof. I'm not saying there might be one. I don't know what I don't think, based on the definitions that I heard, there probably is not such a being anywhere. The definitions are usually themselves hugely problematic.
Okay, well, you just run
you said somebody gave you 14 minutes on why they are a theist, and for you to just say there is no God, yeah, I don't think it's. I think the temperate, polite thing was to say I see no reason based on I was not a believer in a God before I heard this argument, and you haven't offered me any compelling evidence or reasons to believe now that there is a God, and therefore my view on this is unchanged.
I'll give you that, Jeff. I'd like to welcome Andy Jack, my friend from the UK, to our hangout here. To get you up to speed, Andy, do you believe that the best science is polite science? Nice, soft, well-mannered science.
What? I never heard of that term before. Just polite science.
Science that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings with the truth.
Well, there's a difference between science being nice and the presentation of the science being nice. Science is unbiased. It is what it is.
Yeah, abstractions cannot be polite or rude. What do you think, Andy?
To me, the truth is the truth, and that's it. That's what I go along with. I go along with the truth. But your truth might be different to my truth. There's scientific truth. There's other truths as well, which are non-scientific. But to me, because I've experienced it, and that's what science does. If you can test it, if you can experience it, then to you it becomes a truth. So I have spiritual truth, being a Christian, and I also rely on scientific truth as well. Yeah.
So, seems like you're insisting, Bunto, that somehow science is offending people, and I guess you're kind of talking about like maybe the evolution argument or abiogenesis or something like that.
Do some theists find science offensive?
Well, I think they find it contradictory to their worldview. I don't know if they would say offensive. Is something contrary to your worldview offensive by nature? I don't think so. Inherently, no, I don't think so to be true. I think that you might get some people to use that adjective from time to time to describe it, but I don't think there's a correlation there, no.
What do you think, Jennifer?
Somebody named Tim or Phobos Anomaly is trying to get on and can't. Does somebody have him blocked or whatever?
No. Should be able to come in. He was in earlier.
Oh, he said he's having trouble getting on.
No, I didn't block him.
I have no one blocked. My list is empty. It always has been.
Okay. To be polite...
I'm sorry, did you say you did have him blocked?
No, I don't have him blocked.
No, me either.
Okay.
I've not got him blocked. No.
Okay, to be polite, is essential in the Google Hangout. What do you think, Andy? Was yesterday any sort of indication of how valuable that trait is?
I don't think we really touched on the science kind of thing, me and G-Man, because we kind of both believe in a similar sort of thing. But I believe that a lot of the fundamentalist Christians deny evidential science. So to them, I think it would be offensive to them because it kind of goes right against what they personally believe in, which is creation, rather than evolution, and they believe in 10,000, 6,000 years rather than billions or millions. So to them it would be offensive, yeah, but to me it's not.
Okay, well, just to fill the people in yesterday with what happened at the wonderful Andy Jack, that was a great show you had yesterday, Andy, about explain the Bible to me. Well, how did you title your hangout, Andy? It was Nadia. Yesterday's hangout, but
I can't remember actually.
Well, actually, it was. If you've got the balls to explain the Bible, it's not to me. In my mind, it goes that way. But G-Man was at the hangout. Thanks, Jen, for coming. G-Man was at the hangout, and that was my first live interaction with G-Man. Yeah. And it didn't go well. He found some way to block me, and then I had to leave the hangout. That would have went better, right, Andy, if I was more polite?
So I missed half the conversation. Then.
Oh, we can't hear you, Andy.
Okay, so I just lost connection there or something for a moment. But see, G-Man's always going to have a problem with people like yourself. Okay.
Okay.
He will have problems with anyone who doesn't believe pretty much exactly what he believes. He will always have a problem with that person. But that's his problem. The onus is on him. He's got the issue. You haven't. It's as simple as that. And it proved itself well in yesterday's hangout with him.
Jeff, have you ever... Go ahead, Jeff.
Were you... I joined this late. Were you clear that we were talking about a specific example of some kind of conduct?
Yay!
You've been asking us these generalized questions, which seem to be geared towards getting us to agree to how a specific situation was handled. So you're saying that somebody was really rude to you and blocked you and did all kinds of things like this. Obviously, they have lowered the bar of politeness, and if you were impolite following those kinds of rude activities, then I don't think anybody would blame you. I don't see why we have to generalize because somebody generally thinks it's preferable to be polite in conversation. Doesn't mean that when the when you get into the start wallowing in the mud that
right
that okay, you have to retain that you have to just have somebody flog you or whatever.
That's a very good point, Jeff. But the only thing I want to counter is this: we want to find things that work. Hi, Tim.
Hello. I wanted to interject.
Go ahead.
Yeah, even though I just entered, I have a good idea of what you guys are talking about. Manners in bed are not the same as manners in the social world. Am I right, Jeff?
Okay. I missed the first part. Manners in the social...
I said manners in bed are not the same as manners in the social world. So the way that you interact with somebody does not necessarily mean that's the way you want to interact in the bedroom, right?
Okay. We can go with that.
Or maybe I'm totally wrong because I'm drunk off my ass, so I don't even know. Whatever.
Well, good manners are prized anywhere, correct, Jeff? Nadia, thanks for coming into the hangout. How's your New Year going, honey? Yes, I remember that one early this morning, the Afrocentrist. Jesus.
Afrocentrist?
Yes, it was lovely. Yeah. That was a good hangout. Can you hear me, Nadia? Because we can't hear you.
Something in the chat, I think.
Anyway, let me go to...
Right, both muted. And nice to meet you, Andy. Nice to meet you, Jeff. My name is Tim. Hello.
Hi, Tim.
Tim, Andy, this is my friend Tim. He's great friend. Shamos, Nate, Nadia, and Jeff. This is Andy. Okay, well, Andy, let me bring you in lieu of Nadia. Okay, what I'm trying to say, I was explaining to Jeff earlier, I'm trying to find things that work, okay? Can I make interaction with G-Man work by being nicer to him? I need to find utility with G-Man.
I think you have to come to him on his terms with G-Man. That's the only way you're going to get around that guy. It's the only way.
Is that what you tried yesterday?
No, I didn't. No, I just try and speak the truth. That's all I do. I try and speak the truth, just like yourself. And that's. There's no point in me trying to be a person who I'm not, because that's just being disingenuous.
Right.
And that is not the way to go. You know, you are who you are. Try not to be somebody else. That is basically it. That is the golden rule in life. Try not to be someone else, because if you're trying to be someone else, it's as simple as that. To be myself. That's all.
I don't think your conversation. I don't think if you're an atheist, your conversation with G-Man is going to be productive at all, for reasons that aren't just about politeness. But G-Man is a preacher. He's not really a serious apologist or debater. He may, like to spar with atheists, but it's not a good faith conversation. It's not a search for truth. It's not any kind of introspection. So no, I don't think it's productive to engage with him under any circumstances, unless I have some common ground, some other interest that maybe G-Man and I share. Then maybe we could talk about. I'm not into sports, but maybe he likes old cars. I could talk about those things with him, and I would do so in a polite way. But no, I don't think politeness makes a conversation better. I think you were asking how one should engage in conversation, and I said politely, and it should be polite on both sides. Obviously, if one side isn't polite and the other one is, then that's not going to be very productive either. So I don't know.
Okay, very good point.
I don't know what the controversy is here. If you block it, that sounds like
the situation would be this.
If I may, real quick.
Go ahead, Tim.
I must apologize because I thought this conversation was about something which it obviously was completely and utterly not about.
Well, I'm just now finding out what this is about myself, and I've been on here for 20 minutes.
My apologies, Jeff. My apologies, Andy.
Thank you, Jeff.
My apologies to everyone else on here, Shamos and Nadia and Chocolate Rainbow. My apologies.
Okay, well, I was going to say this. Here's a hypothetical. Here's the role play. I invite G-Man to a hangout, one-on-one.
That's your first mistake.
Okay, okay, that's a good point. Now we're talking about the no-win situation, the Kobayashi Maru.
The Kobayashi Maru, right?
Conversation.
Right.
And you can't reprogram the G-Man.
I mean, I'm going to attempt
your situation
to make the conversation work by being polite. That's the
bottom line
tool that I have
in the world.
But that's not the only tool. Hopefully you would have some knowledge about the subject matter as well. It's not all or nothing.
But is it not the foremost tool? Is it not the foremost tool?
No. Where are you getting that? I said
we're not going to agree on doctrine. We're not going to agree on science. So the only tool that I have is politeness.
Yeah, well, there should be some context to the exchange. So what's the purpose of the exchange? Is it to debate, or is it to...
I want people to see that Bunto and G-Man can interact for a duration longer than 10 minutes, right, Andy, before I got bumped?
Why is it important for you to interact with him?
Because I want to just show people that it can be done. That we could have a fruitful, my audience. I care about my audience and seeing that...
No, I know you care, but who cares about whether you can get along with G-Man or not? Why is he the one to whom we should all...
Well, I mean, for example, Andy's hangout, wasn't that one of the points of your hangout yesterday, Andy, that you could get along with G-Man and talk about biblical scripture constructively?
Yeah, it was to try and give my point of view, because on the subject we were talking about, I've done quite an in-depth study, and it appears what he believes is not correct. So I basically I wanted to talk to G-Man just to correct him on what he thought was true. And the problem is with G-Man is that he doesn't like correction. He doesn't like to be told. He likes to tell other people what to think, but he doesn't like other people telling him how it is. He doesn't accept that. That's one of his downfalls. So with G-Man, unfortunately, it's either his way or no way. It's as simple as that. You know.
So why would a thoughtful atheist or anybody want to debate somebody like that? You're elevating that person. You're elevating their stature, and they're slapping you down like a fly because they're not in good faith in the argument. I don't know why in the world you would want to argue with them.
Good point.
You can't change someone like G-Man. G-Man is unchangeable.
I don't get this fixation that atheists especially have with G-Man. I do not. It's, debate somebody prominent. Debate I don't know. Debate what's his name, Ken Ham. Debate somebody that's got that's got something to say.
Jeff, go ahead. Well, Jeff, I was going to say, why do people climb Mount Everest? Because it's there.
Okay.
That is the G-Man paradox.
Hey, there are more theists there than just. If G-Man was the only theist, we wouldn't have to debate him. There's only one. There's only one Mount Everest. There's lots of G-Men.
Okay. Chocolate, how are you doing?
Why do you care, Bunto? That's what I want to know. Why do you care? Why do you care about results?
I'll tell you after Tim, but go ahead, Chocolate. We'd like to hear what you have to say.
No, I just want to say, because you guys are asking about why G-Man. The thing is like, I like G-Man personally. I think he's cool, but G-Man's a spectacle.
Yes.
He's that guy that makes those arguments that arrogant atheists can take advantage of, I think.
Right.
They use it as a platform, like J.D. Kane has a lot of press and a lot of focus because of the ripping on G-Man he's done. So it's like G-Man's an easy target for people.
Well, G-Man must have a bigger audience than some of these people, and they obviously want to get they want to leverage that G-Man's numbers. That's all I can figure out, because why else in the world would you engage with somebody like that? You just end up looking like a fool yourself.
Does it, right? The Amazing Atheist does it because he knows that he'll get G-Man will get because he was on the Amazing Atheist, and it does kind of fueling the fire of, this. I don't even know what it is. It's just like,
I mean, what if G-Man is? Why doesn't Richard Dawkins want to? Why doesn't Richard Dawkins debate him or Sam Harris if he's such a formidable?
Exactly. That's my point too. Is that he's not a formidable opponent. He's just someone.
Yeah, he's it's like.
So yeah, you're right, Jeff.
It reminds me of that Seinfeld episode when Kramer was in karate and everybody was impressed, and then they found out that his karate opponents were like these little kids that were like 10 years old.
Yeah, that's perfect, because that's what it is. It's just you know the arguments he's gonna come with. You know what he's gonna say before he says it. Most people are watching his channel to just see the next crazy thing he's gonna say.
Yeah, he's doing shtick and entertainment. Yeah, and atheists are making fools out of themselves trying to debate him.
Okay, well, I'd just like to ask, can anybody come on the other end of the spectrum and say positive stuff for G-Man?
I can say a lot of positive stuff about him.
He seems like a nice guy. When he's genuine, when he's alone in a hang-up, I'll say he does seem like a friendly guy. He seems like he has a pretty decent sense of humor when he's not in character doing his...
Off-air, G-Man is a very different person.
He seems like I'll say that about him, but I think it's totally counterproductive for thoughtful people to try and engage him. They just end up, he makes fools of them.
To rehabilitate...
Sincere. That's my thing with G-Man. I think he's sincere, and I think he really is trying to do what he's doing, but the way he goes about it is kind of weird. Right? So...
Yeah. A very good point. To rehabilitate the G-Man conversation, not necessarily change his ideas or his mind or his personality, but to rehabilitate that conversation. Jeff brought up a point earlier saying that there are some no-win situation conversations. What we are trying to arrive at is a way of demonstrating fruitfulness in dialogue with a theist of that nature.
Well, it takes two to tango, and one is entering in good faith, and the other isn't. So you're not going to achieve that with this particular person. He's not trying to question his beliefs or look for arguments. He's looking for confirmation. He's looking to preach. He's looking to expand his audience. He's looking to proselytize. He's not looking to think of the cosmological, the Kalam argument, or any of these things, or to rationally debate this kind of stuff. That's just not what he does.
If I may,
I checked. I'm not an expert on him, so I haven't.
Pedantic interjection. You cannot rehabilitate a conversation. You could rehash it and go over it again. You're not going to rehabilitate a specific moment in time where people were talking.
Well, I meant future conversations. I meant figuratively. Okay, Andy, you knew this going into the conversation yesterday with G-Man, that you were doing something that was impossible.
Well, in my previous kind of talks and debates with G-Man, I've always tried to come at it with kind of like with gentleness, if you like, as I do with all people. It's just that's my nature. That's just the way I am. G-Man is very aggressive, so I knew that I had a bit of a battle on my hands. But I know that I had the truth on my side. Now, it doesn't matter how loud you can shout and scream and bawl. The person with the truth will end up winning the debate. It's as simple as that. So when he said to me, I'm going to get Jason Burns on the Hangout, and I'm going to get Matthew 4:19 on the Hangout, I said to him, well, you know, they can shout loud and for a long time, but have they got the truth? And the answer is that they haven't really got the truth on the subject we were talking about. So, and that's what I think really got his goat, was when I said that you've got no credibility in what you're thinking is of eternity and hell. And I think that's what really kind of pushed him over the edge into meltdown mode, which was quite funny to see, to be honest. But I didn't want it to go that way.
I just have to disagree in one area. I think we've all seen debates where people who we were pretty certain had the truth actually lost the debates because they just weren't good debaters, or they didn't stay on the topic, or this happens all the time. So
yeah,
you don't win every exchange just because you're right. Unfortunately,
you must get your point across in a very, very eloquent way.
Right.
You must do
some people are very correct, but they are not good at doing that. So it's not just sufficient to be on the right side of an issue.
When I saw Thunderfoot have the discussion with it was back in 2012, I think it was, in Washington, with Kent Hovine's son. I forget his name now. Thunderfoot had like an interview with him, actually made a program of it, and Thunderfoot didn't come across very well at all in the debate, and also Ray Comfort. And we all know that Thunderfoot, come on, he's a scientist, he's got the truth, but he's not a very good speaker. Now, if that was Aaron Ra, or it was...
oh, just 1 second, sorry to interrupt. Perhaps, who's echoing? Can somebody fix their mic? I wonder who's echoing. Try it again, Andy, please.
Okay, right. Just talking about Thunderfoot when he had an interview with Ray Comfort and Kent Hovine's son, his name just escapes me for a moment. Now, Thunderfoot's a very intelligent person. He's a scientist, so there's a man who knows about stuff, how things work. But that's a person who cannot get his argument across in a very good way under pressure. But if you had someone like Aaron Ra, or some of the other kind of prominent guys on the internet who are good speakers with truth, then they can literally knock these people dead, just with several sentences, and makes them look rather silly. But the thing is with G-Man and some of the other radicalized fundies out there, they get you off topic. They try and take you away off topic because they get in an uncomfortable place. And that's what I kind of felt G-Man was doing yesterday in several occasions. I tried to get him back online on topic. And when I did, that's when kind of he acts all silly and stupid and starts to play around like a child, unfortunately. But that's the way it goes. It's very sad that a person has to revert to childish tactics, it makes him look rather silly.
Well, not necessarily to his supporters, but it makes him look silly to those people who already think they're silly.
Well,
the people who don't, they'll enjoy the sparring with the atheists, and I think the Cy Brutengate debate with Matt Dillahunty, I actually think Cy put Matt on the defensive. I thought Matt said a lot of great things, but he seemed to be on the defensive from the whole debate, from the moment of that silly how do you know it, how do you know it, how do you know it kind of thing. And
right.
And Matt, I think, I'm sure he didn't. I'm sure people like me thought he did okay, but I doubt he convinced a single one of Cy's.
I mean, it's really what I mean. If they're true Christians, they provide, they say that that they are Christians, and the idea is to try and lead people to Christ, to get saved, but that isn't really how it works. So the whole idea of these debates is to try and beat your opponent into submission, so that they then.
Hello.
But in actual fact, they're doing the exact opposite. They are doing the exact opposite. So really, the premise which they
okay, well, let's get.
Sorry.
You've laid down the apologetic, Andy. Let's talk about possibilities. Can somebody tame G-Man conversation? Because Jeff has a very good point of why does anybody waste their time with something that is pointless?
It is a pointless task, I think, with G-Man and some of the others, because they're so stuck in their way. I've got the ability to stand back, assess the situation, to look at science, to look at my worldview, my thinking, and change. I have the ability to do that. Has G-Man got that ability? Well, he might mellow as he gets older, so there is still hope for him. But there are some older fundamentalists out there who really do believe that evolution is false and the Earth is no more than 10,000 years old, and I'm afraid these people are lost.
Well, how about this? There's all sorts of conversations. And we had one yesterday where you were in proximity with G-Man. So you just forego those proximity conversations and just have the response video conversation. Is that the only possible conversation you can have with the man?
I think it has to be spontaneous with G-Man. He likes Google Hangouting. That's right, term to use. And I think if anyone can get through to him, they would have to. I don't know really what they would have to do to try and get through to him to make him change his mind. So it's. I'm really thinking that. I try to use scripture and original meanings to words to lead him to the knowledge of that part of the truth, according to eternal hell, punishment, and the eternity, aeons, aionios, that kind of thing. And it's there plain to see. Black is black. It's not grey. It's not white. It's not anything else. Black is black, and he's still called black white. And I'm using scriptures to prove him incorrect. If I can't do it by using scriptures and the correct interpretations using the correct original meanings, then I'm afraid there's no real hope for him concerning that particular doctrine.
Very well, Andy. I salute you in your perseverance in using sacred scripture to attain victory with G-Man. I don't want to talk about G-Man anymore. Jeff.
Yay!
Jeff, were you ever a fan of sacred scripture?
Of sacred scripture? Is that somebody's name on...
Yeah, or name or the Bible or any other such religious...
I've never been really overtly religious, ever. If there's somebody named sacred scripture, I don't know who that is.
No, sacred scripture is the Bible.
Okay.
Have you ever been a fan of the Bible?
I've never taken the Bible very seriously. I accepted up to a point when my parents told me there was a God watching over me and that kind of thing, and I went to Sunday school and I heard some of the lessons, but I never was committed to it in any way, consciously.
So, sacred scripture, no validity whatsoever.
Well, I would put it as I don't think it's a reliable historic document. I think it has a lot of problems. So, it may refer to certain actual things that happened, historical events, but overall I don't regard it as a reliable work, and certainly nothing that's connected to some deity. I just see no reason to believe that.
Andy, is that needed for conversation? To respect sacred scripture?
I think if you read the English version of the Bible, you're going to get nothing but gibberish from it. But because obviously the Bible was written in some Aramaic, Hebrew, and the Greek. But over time, there's been mistranslations have crept in. That was the reason why I had the Hangout yesterday with that certain person. But he wouldn't accept the original scriptures. He only accepted the English version of it, and then he didn't get the correct meanings of certain words. So really, the biggest problems are the misinterpretation and understanding of the Bible, and also the misinterpretations of the original words. That is the major problem. But I myself, yes, I use scripture. It's not the most important thing in my life because it's not God. I cannot have a relationship with a book. The relationship which I have is with Christ, and that is more important than just reading words in a book, because the words in a book are not going to save you. Okay, it's having this spiritual relationship with God, and you get that via revelation, and that's the foundation of your faith. But no, as the Bible goes, if any person was to pick it up and read it, before you get to the next chapter, you'd be kind of just put it away somewhere, and it would be picked up for many a time.
Very good.
Andy, can I ask you a question? I'm sorry. I was going to ask. You're familiar with the original versions of the Bible. I was just wondering, what do you think is the most misunderstood passage or claim that you think is based on mistranslation?
For me, it has to be the most damaging one for me is the mistranslation, and there's quite a few actually. Eternity is one, and the mistranslation of hell is the other one. Two major issues which the fundamental Christian gets off on, because they like to use eternity and hell as a weapon in argument. So basically, you'll be arguing with a theist, with a fundamental theist, and he's losing the argument because he tries to base his book on science, and it's not a science book, so he's getting his butt handed to him, and then out of the blue he'll just come up and he'll say, well, at the end of the day, you're going to go to hell unless you repent. And they like to get off on that, and G-Man loves to, sorry, I mentioned that name, didn't I? And that person loves to do that.
So hell and eternity mean something else? So what does eternity, for example, what does eternity mean under the original?
Right, okay. Well, in the English, we think that it means forever. It means it's an age never ending. But what it means in the Greek, in its original wording, it means a word called aionios, which means age during. So it has a beginning and also has an end. So, for instance, we are now in eternity, or in aionios, on this Hangout. It had a start. It's also going to have an end, but it's ongoing. It's age during. It's eternity. It's forever within, the start and the finish. But when it comes to an end, it's the end of the age. As in biblical terms.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's what that means. So.
And just quickly, how about hell, and how is the?
Well, the conception of hell, the meanings of those words. Hell originally comes from the Anglo-Saxon name Heli, spelled H-E-L-E, which means to be hidden, to be buried, and to be unseen. It's the exact same meanings of Sheol and Hades. So when a person dies, they go to Sheol, which is to be hidden, to be unseen, to be buried. That's why I said yesterday in my Hangout, everyone's going to go to hell. When I say that, you automatically think, oh, it's this burning place where unbelievers go. Well, in the original Anglo-Saxon meaning, it actually means to be hidden, to be buried, to be unseen. It means to go to the grave. And that's where we're all going to go. We're all going to the grave. But what Christ talked about in Matthew 24, Luke 21 was Gehenna. That's a different place. It's called the lake of fire and the second death. That's something different. But again, they get the mistranslations. I tried to talk to that chap yesterday on my Hangout. Pride got in the way, and when you get pride in the way, then all understanding goes out the window. And that is his biggest problem, along with many other fundamental Christians, because they like the concept of eternal hell punishment to threaten people with, and it's evil and it's wicked.
So the fiery lake is a place to which one might find oneself if they sinned or whatever they were.
Okay. The lake of fire is not going to be a place of heat, a place of fire and brimstone. Literally, what it's going to be, it's going to be the God's elect in the coming age. It's God's elect because it's God's will that not one person be lost. They all come into the knowledge of the truth. The lake of fire is going to be the body of Christ. You know that term, the body of Christ, don't you? That is the believers in this age, because God is searching and seeking out people in this age to be what's called the body of Christ. They are going to be called the lake of fire, because when we read in Psalm 104, verse 4, it talks about his ministers are flames of fire. You see, when God used fire in the Old Testament, he used it for man's benefit. All right, it was for his glory. And when he talks about the lake of fire, it's for man's glory. It's called the second death. Now, Christians in this age are dying to themselves. Now, I've died to myself. I've been selected by God to die to myself, to be Christ-like, in which the second death has no power over me, because I've already died to myself in this age. I've been conformed in Christ as one of his own, as a believer, acceptable to God, as a believer. Now, all of humanity, or most of humanity, are going to be forced into the lake of fire, which becomes the second death, when humanity gets forced and thrusted into it to die to themselves, to be conformed in the same way that I'm being conformed now into the image and likeness of Christ, so that God may be all in all, 1 Corinthians 15:28. So, in actual fact, God is glorious according to Scriptures. But unfortunately, religion gets in the way and completely fucks it up. Excuse my language.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Thanks for clarifying.
Well, has it ever struck any of your thinking that what of the believer who cannot understand any of this or wishes not to?
It's not there.
Bro Joe, welcome. Hope you're having a happy new year. Any thoughts?
What's up, Bunto?
How you doing?
What was the question again?
The question of the believer who cannot even understand Scripture or just willfully ignores it, just doesn't need it. Bible.
How can he even believe then? I mean, it's the whole basis of his belief system.
It's the pillar of Christianity to know the Bible?
I would say so.
Andy, have you had any experience otherwise?
It's not this.
It's like one of the legs on a three-leg table. You know?
Hello.
The only way you can understand.
Why did you say hello?
Oh, hold on a second.
A lot of background noise.
Go ahead, Andy.
Right. Okay. It's not down. It's not that person's fault who can't believe. Okay. You can only believe via revelation. Every person in the Bible, right from Genesis through to Revelation, Book of Revelation, every person in between has been given a kind of like an encounter, a revelation of God. That is a foundation you build your faith upon. If you're just reading the book, okay, and you try to believe the book, you can't. You might as well just read Harry Potter and believe that, or the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, or one of the other thousands of holy books out there.
That's a very radical theology, Andy.
Yeah. Well, I think we've spoken of this before, but if there is a God out there and He's almighty and all-powerful, and He is selecting His people, okay, to be His elect in the coming age, then this almighty being, who's apparently created heavens and the earth, He should have the ability to come to a person in such a way where it's so personal to that person, and then the revelation which they have is very real. It's more real than life itself. It means something to them in a very, very deep, personal way, and that's what kind of happened to me 2 or 3 times. So it's by revelation that you then get understanding. It's not so much by reading the Bible itself.
Okay, very good, Andy. Thank you. Brojo, does that make sense to you?
It does to a point, but I would dare say that I've had people who say, well, I don't need the Bible to believe in Jesus, maybe, or they'll have this revelation, but all their ideas of who and what Jesus are comes from the Bible itself. I remember a former pastor did this to me, and when we were discussing this and how I left, and he says, Jesus came to me personally. But meanwhile, he had a whole background of Christianity, and again, any idea of what Jesus is going to have to come from the Bible. So I dare say that a lot of Christians, their faith is more in what the book says than a God, which I believe goes beyond any binder of any book.
I have a question because I'm a bit late to this conversation. So, what's the main topic of discussion?
Right now,
guess.
Right now it is the Bible. Does the believer need to even know what the Bible says, or can he just willfully ignore it?
Well, I'm an atheist, and I was raised an atheist, so I can't say personally, but my opinion would be, no, you don't need a book to tell you what you believe, though you certainly can use one.
Anybody?
I think as a Christian myself, the most important thing to me is my relationship with Christ. But the book is an important book. Yeah, we also need the book, but it's not as important as spiritual things, And even the Bible would say that in 2 Corinthians 3:6. It talks about the letter kills, but the spirit gives life. So.
Andy, would you be upset if we fix the Bible then? Can't we fix it to modern times?
I don't know if you could probably do that, but still the Spirit of God would live on, you see, so they can mess about with as much as they kind of wanted to.
Well, let's take out the homosexual bashing, slavery, all the silly stories.
That's kind of pretty. Again, you see, that's religion. That is not the nature of how we ought to be, the new covenant, if you like. Because it's myself. I'm for all people. If you're doing what you're doing, just carry on doing it and just love each other. That's the most important.
It's very simple, effective.
Well, hold on a second. Well, in terms of the Bible and other religious texts, they're mainly very contradictory, so I consider them as sort of like a selection from which you can choose your beliefs. But, my point is, if you're going to edit it, then I think instead of editing the old stuff, you should add like a new section that says, okay, the old stuff was stories that people told. And in fact, according to my mom, that's how they sort of teach it in Catholic school. That these were stories that explain beliefs or morals and stuff like that. So if you're gonna edit it, then I think it should be a new section that sort of explains the old stuff rather than changing the old stuff. for example, Shakespeare was a great writer, but I'm not going to take out all of the sex, even though I'm not into that.
Well, I mean, the Bible has a lot of problems, Albert. So let's not be, too selective. Let's fix the whole thing towards the better. Brojo?
Well, Bunto, some Christians will have a problem because you go into near the end of Revelation, and you can interpret it as well as referring to the book of Revelation or the whole Bible. But there's a scripture in there that says, if anyone adds or takes away from this book, that they're a curse. The curses that are found in that book will be upon them.
True.
So, yeah.
Well, what happens is that the whole of this conversation, this question is the authority of Scripture. Now, look at Andy. Andy is an expert on Scripture and its authority and the ins and outs of sacred Scripture. But other people, it doesn't come that readily to. Doesn't that hold back the whole religion? Andy essentially distilled it down to being, treat your brother as you would yourself, right? The golden rule, right, Andy? So, I mean, can you not see, where I'm coming from, that in order to make the religion more palatable, we could just go ahead and correct the pillar?
I don't think you have to alter the Bible in any particular way. Again, you see, if you are one of God's preordained, selected ones, talking from Scripture, you would accept each and every person. It doesn't matter what they do, because then you'd understand that God has got these people in the place He wants them to at that particular time in history. That's how it would work. And you would understand also that each and every person, eventually, in the fullness of times, not one person is going to go to this fictional place of hell that we're all going to inherit. Heaven, if you like. And
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Andy. Isn't this the person that created the whole universe?
I forget. Is hell actually in the Bible? I know limbo and purgatory aren't.
Anyone? I believe it probably mentions something about it, Albert. Okay, but Andy, isn't this the guy who created the whole universe and everything we see around us? God? Andy? Anyone?
Looks like he got frozen.
Yeah, how about you, brother? Brother John, isn't God the guy who invented everything and created everything, and He's all-powerful?
I would say so. I try to avoid using the word God because it's got, the Judeo-Christian, usually that's that idea of it, but I would say that I'm led to believe that everything comes from a source.
Okay, so who needs the Bible?
Well, yeah. Exactly.
Why does religion need authority if they got the guy who did everything on their side?
Well, actually, if I recall correctly, the idea of God being omnipresent and omniscient and omnipotent all at once and infallible, the combination of all that at once, I think that's actually more of a modern conception, like within the last couple hundred years. And because
so God ain't all that, right?
Well, when they wrote the Bible, I don't think He was all that, but He became all that in people's beliefs over time. So He may be all that if He exists, and He may not be. Like, the number one commandment is have no other gods before me. That seems to imply there were other gods. You know?
So, Andy, God ain't all that, right?
To me, God is everything. To me, because it's kind of been revealed to me in that way.
In a pantheistic way, or?
In a pantheistic way.
Like the universe itself?
Like the force?
For myself, I would lean towards more of a pantheistic idea of.
You can just cite Romans 1:20. I mean, it's revealed. It says in the Bible. Just fall back on Scripture. I'll share with you the verse.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, okay, either this guy needs the Bible or he doesn't. Does he need the Bible? God?
I think he used to, but now he doesn't because of what we think of him as now.
I think to get to know God, we have to read about him and to understand. It's helpful to understand the events in Scripture.
Hold on a second.
People. Sorry.
We need to have the authority of sacred Scripture to know that this guy exists.
I think not. You don't need the authority. You don't need that. But it's nice to know the history of of his kind of earthly ministry, if you like, of Christ and the things which happened in the Old Testament, which kind of foreshadow the things in the Old Testament, which are going to be a foreshadowing of things in the future to come. So yeah, it's important to have a book to read.
All right. Hold on, I got a curveball for you. My dad was overhearing my conversation, and he's an atheist like me, but he decided, let's consider the idea that instead of God being a white guy, he's a black woman.
Right.
How about neither?
Yeah, that's what I would think. But you know what? Hold on, Dad. They can hear you. Go ahead, talk.
Oh yeah. No, all this. A lot of religions refer to God as a male personage, and so just like drop this on them that God is a woman and she's black. See what their reaction is.
It wouldn't faze me one little bit as a Christian myself. It would not faze me at all. Not one little bit. At the end of the day, God is love. Whatever it is, whoever it is, this being, this entity, this black woman or whatever, is perfect love. Perfect love. That's it. Interesting question. Thanks for that.
So is this a one-on-one conversation or is this a multiplex?
What, Dad? Okay, hold on a second, guys.
Bro Joe.
Yes, sir.
Pantheistic God.
Yes.
Like the Force, right?
Yes, if you want to go there.
I realize
why the Force?
So my dad couldn't hear anything you guys were saying.
Thank you, Albert. Bro Joe, what is the benefits of the pantheistic God opposed to the plain old sky God?
Let's get the camera on. Come on, Dad.
That's all right. No, I'm
wait. Okay, I'm gonna mute Albert there. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I did too. Go ahead.
The
Please
benefits of a pantheistic God as opposed to the Bible God?
Sure.
Is that what you said? Okay.
Why do you swing towards pantheistic God opposed to a guy with a white beard?
And again, this is okay. Again, this is just my own idea, and I mean, it's not my own idea. It's just other ideas from other philosophies that I've incorporated. So I'm by no means saying that this is the way it is. This is how you should believe. So I want to make that clarification first. I'm even in my belief, there's room for the Big Bang, and even if I go with the God being the prime mover, the first cause of all, I would have to, my reasoning tells me that his presence or his, I guess for lack of better words, it just permeates every part of an existence. It also takes in the fact that God is not this just. I have no problem looking at God or Source being what you would call good and evil as well, or chaos and order. I think, as you can see from my. Whoops, sorry, lost my audio.
Okay. Well, Andy, can you hear me? Is there any utility in dispersing God in that manner? Kind of like bending him around science and reality instead of what's traditionally said in the Bible.
Well, we can't test God, can we? If we believe that God.
Sorry, I lost my audio.
Okay. We can't test God. I believe, theists believe that God is the inventor of all things, including the scientific scientific methods, if you like, although we have discovered those things. So it's kind of difficult to. I don't know really, Bunto. That's a tough question, mate. That's a hard one. I don't know if I made any sense of what I said. But...
Well, is it attractive to you, the Force God, the pantheistic God? Do you think you would ever arrive at that?
Well, in my belief, that God is the creator of all things, but He used the mechanism of the Big Bang to create the universe the way it is. We don't know how it was before, what was there before, the universe itself. I believe that He created life, because we haven't really got the answer for that, not yet. But even so, I don't know how you could.
If you remembered how G-Man hammered you mercilessly yesterday about how you interpreted the Bible, and asked you, I believe in my memory, he said, well, do you believe in Adam? Remember that one? Do you believe in Adam of the Bible?
Oh, yeah.
And you said, well, there was an original human or something, and then he, insisted that it was the Bible or nothing else, correct?
Yeah. Well, his idea was that God created Adam instantly, from the dust.
I can't hear you. Somebody's echoing. Does everybody turn off the echo, please? Let me see. All right, hello. Try it again, Andy.
Okay. Well, his mechanism is that God created man from the dust of the earth. Couldn't explain how that exactly happened. Nobody knows how that exactly happened. But me being a theistic evolutionist, I believe that we have gradually over billions of years that we have evolved into what we are now as humans. Apes, if you like, a different variety of ape.
The reason people go to pantheism is because they need to reconcile what it's saying in the Bible with reality, correct?
Yes, I think that's probably true. Yeah.
So that's the direction you're going.
I do to a certain extent. I do. Yeah, but there are obviously limits with that. But it's not really up for kind of like deep. Well, it's up for discussion, obviously. But there's some things obviously we can't prove. But it's my it's not what G agree with or I mentioned his name. Someone's got an echo.
Yeah. Go ahead, Albert.
I'm starting to lose attention, so I'm just going to introduce something. I'm going to state my main problems with religion and how I think religion could be useful, but is not being used. So, first of all, a lot of religions are anthropocentric, human-centric, which, based on statistics, there are probably plenty of intelligent life out there. So, that's a good point, brother. Pantheistic God does not...
please, Albert, get the point.
Okay, sorry. So, and then of course there's the problem of the so-called God of the gaps, like you were explaining how you think God is responsible for the...
Okay, you're giving a lot of negotiation, Albert. Why don't you believe in God?
Well, partly because I was raised to not believe in God, but also because what I see... Yeah, it's a really tough question. Every time I go
think it over, Albert. Okay, Andy, why do you believe in God within 10 seconds, please?
Because I've had a spiritual experience, several of them. That's the real reason why, and the Bible would say that I'd have these kind of things, so that's my revelation.
Why would you disbelieve that? How could you disbelieve that?
Because to me it was real, it was reality, and it helped me out of a situation at the time I was in. I got a lot to be thankful for. That's the real reason.
Now, doesn't it say in Corinthians, if there is no afterlife, then all our faith has been in vain?
Yeah.
That's the resurrection. If Christ did not resurrect, then the faith is in vain. Yeah.
What do you think those guys meant by that? Whoever wrote that.
Exactly that.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly
Paul
that.
wrote it.
Well, whoever wrote it. I mean, okay, Paul. Let's say Paul wrote it. Don't you believe that's the most craven rationale for believing in any sort of religion? That as long as you get a free ticket to heaven?
That's
as
not
long as there's
what
something past this reality, we're not going to be crying about the truth that there is no God. Isn't that not what he was saying?
No.
Oh, if you don't mind, I think I have an answer now.
Sure.
Okay. I don't see a conscious element in nature. Even in those things that people usually do think has a conscious element, like hurricanes or stuff like that. That to me, because I know the science, that seems just.
Let me go ahead and tell you, Albert. You do not see any outside agency interacting with your reality.
No, I don't. And the fact that we don't know something doesn't mean that there isn't a natural explanation for it.
Very good, Albert. Shamos, what was Paul saying with that verse?
He was saying that basically the resurrection of Christ is essential, right? And it's a central tenet of Christian belief. Like if you look at Romans 10:9, it says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus Christ is Lord and believe in your heart that God rose him from the dead, you will be saved. So it's a central tenet, basically, and he's saying how important it is. He's saying that the resurrection of Christ is so essential to Christianity that if Christ did not resurrect, then Christ is in fact not Lord. And if Christ is in fact not Lord, he can't make good on his promises. And if he can't make good on his promises, then we of all men are most to be pitied. It's very simple.
Okay, so if that mechanism was not present, we could wrap up all of Christianity into a bag and throw it into the trash if this guy didn't resurrect?
For certain.
Yes, absolutely.
Really? I mean, what was this guy's message?
That's exactly what it means.
I mean, he was worried about the resurrection when he was living? I don't believe he was. I mean, I believe he was saying stuff, love your brother, what do you say, love your brother, try to live, the righteous life. Wasn't that Jesus' message, or was he all like, hey, I got to resurrect?
He said, tear this temple down, I will build it in 3 days, and then the Gospel of John's Christology is even higher, and he did claim that he was going to die for his sins.
Why wasn't that the central message of his ministry? Why wasn't that the good news in all the Gospels?
That is the good news.
In all the Gospels, he's talking about him resurrecting. Andy?
Yeah, that is the essential. That is the cornerstone of our faith. If Christ.
And he said that in all the Gospels, that he was resurrecting, that he had to resurrect.
Yeah.
I don't think so. His message was, various, right? It depends on which Gospel you're reading, but I don't believe that his resurrection was central to his preaching. Does any Christian want to deny that?
If anything, what I get, if anything of the message of Christ, what I would get out is his against the religious establishment. That's
very good. I agree.
These guys don't have any more special connection to God than you can.
Okay, so the whole Jesus story doesn't work if this guy doesn't resurrect. That's what you're telling me.
Well, the thing about the resurrection is, if it doesn't happen yet, you can always say that it's going to happen later.
Anyone?
I'm sorry, Bunto. What was the question again?
I think Albert had an excellent point. He says if it doesn't happen right then, you can always claim it happens later. Okay, listen, all I'm trying to say is that if you read the Bible, which, you know, people should, including atheists, you'll stumble over these very revealing verses that show you the construction and the machinations behind coming up with sacred scripture. And one of them is in Corinthians, where he says, well, if it wasn't for this guy resurrecting, then all our faith is in vain. And then you think, well, you know, boy, isn't that a buzzkill if you're reading, you know, the Jesus story?
You know what would be interesting? What if he was, if this is so, what if he was already resurrected but we never found out about it?
I mean, isn't Albert doing what anybody with common sense do? You know, trying to come up with the testing of the scripture. We want to test the scripture and see how it works. And often we can see the rough edges, or it fails completely.
Yeah, and for me, there are a lot of rough edges when it comes to the resurrection accounts in the Gospels. I see contradictory accounts, and you know, even biblical scholars say that the Gospels attributed to Matthew, Mark, and Luke are, you know, were not written by those guys. These are just names attributed to those Gospels. So yeah, I see problems in the resurrection account stories.
Well, let's fix the Bible. Why not?
What do you mean fix it?
Let's harmonize all of those accounts and throw out the stuff that, you know, makes contradictions.
Well, Jefferson tried that. Right?
Why do we need authority in Scripture, Andy?
It's about control. Religion's about control.
Yeah.
Well,
religion is control, yeah. Basically.
Well, as I said before, if you're going to edit it, you should preserve what's left. I mean, I know that it's better.
What's left.
Like you shouldn't change the old version, just add a new section. But okay, I know that the old stuff has actually been edited several times, but I think like people are tired of it changing and are trying to. People seem to be trying to keep it in its current form right now. So if you're gonna do anything, add a new section. Don't change the old.
Okay,
I mean,
thank
it
you.
could change the old. It has been done before.
Go ahead, Brojo.
I have a great quote I just came across from Bruce Lee, and I think this would apply to you know, when you're looking at not only the Bible but different religions, and I think it's a good quote. And he said, "Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is essentially your own."
Interesting. What do you think, Andy? That's some wisdom. That's a wisdom saying.
I'm frozen. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I'm completely frozen. Sorry, I just missed that. Then I was busy trying to unfreeze my computer. Can you just repeat that?
Please,
sure. Bruce Lee said, "Absorb what is useful, discard what is useless, and add what is essentially your own."
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, I love wisdom sayings, especially very pragmatic and utility ones that you can derive utility from.
Well, that is actually how I sort of see religion in a useful sense, that you can draw ideas and beliefs from it. But the problem is you could also draw ideas and beliefs that are bad, like the slavery and the anti-homosexuality and that sort of stuff, you know?
Very true, Albert. What the thing is, oh God, I'm sorry, this Hangout's maybe been going on for a little too long. Well, I'd like to thank all our participants, and especially ones that came in later. I think we've had a wonderful conversation, and I wish everyone here a happy new year and have a good night. Take care.
All right.